war. Iran has never been a reliable negotiating partner, so why keep offering more chances for a deal? Trump would likely take a deal if he could verify compliance, especially one that transfers the nuclear dust. However, Trump understands that airstrikes are less likely to produce his real objective in the war, regime change, than the blockade of Iran. The Iranian regime has spent 47 years attempting to immanentize their peculiar apocalyptic eschaton. The mullahs pursued nuclear weapons to start an apocalypse that would produce the messianic 12th Imam and spread their tyranny across the globe. Trump is now trying to immanentize the regime's eschaton by forcing the cracks between its factions to produce a collapse. The blockade may well provide the best catalyst for regime change, which is the only real guarantee for security and peace in the region. Trump can afford to wait out the IRGC and let economic strangulation take its course.
Hey, business owners, is your business and money in good hands? Does your bank invest in your success? Hi, Mike Gallagher here, letting you know that when you need a relationship bank, Signature Bank makes commercial banking personal. I love these guys. Not only do they have expansive industry experience, a strong financial track record, but they're also highly capitalized for strategic growth. That's so important. That's why Signature Bank is my bank. They know what it means to grow a business by designing solutions that are right for you and only you. These are real people. They're ready to help. So reach out to my friends at Signature Bank. Make the call today, 773-467-5630, 773-467-5630, or visit them online at signaturebank.bank. That's signaturebank.bank. Your business could be Signature Bank's next success story. Go online, signaturebank.bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Signature Bank.
Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage. Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The high will reach 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Portions of the following show may be pre-recorded.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. So, Bears have their first-round pick selected, this cornerback out of Oregon by way of Purdue. So it seems like an opportune time to revisit where the Bears will be playing football in the near term. Well, in the near term, it's going to be at Soldier Field, but, you know, where they're going to be playing football next. Is it going to be Arlington Heights? So Wednesday, legislation moved out of the House that the Bears characterized as an important first step, but more needs to be done to cement the deal to move to Arlington Heights. By the way, in the next hour, bottom of the next hour, we'll talk to the mayor of Hammond, Indiana, to get his assessment of where things stand and what the possibility of the Indiana Bears really is from his perspective. But from the perspective of, those in and around Arlington Heights, to hear ABC7 report it, encouraging signs because, of course, they want the Bears to locate at the old Arlington Park site. It would be a boon for the region.
Sources say it strays from the agreement that was already negotiated with the Bears. The House bill would put the Bears' payment in a fund for property tax relief for homeowners, and it fails to address a source of funding for infrastructure improvements that would be needed for the new stadium.
We're hoping that they see this as progress, that the legislature and the people in Illinois are doing everything we can to make it work.
Arlington Heights Mayor Jim Tenaglia issued a statement saying, in part, now that the bill passed the House, we're one step closer to working towards a world-class site concept that is a win for our community, the team, and the region as a whole.
Yeah, I love this reporting. They never get into the actual details of this. It's all and to some extent, the legislation and the legislators do the same thing. It's all sort of very gooey. So how do you make an actual assessment of how the bill will impact you? Well, some details here from where things stand, at least as enshrined in this legislation that moved out of the House. 50% of special pilot payments would be put into a property tax relief fund that would then be divided 60% towards property tax rebates for homeowners in the district where the mega project is located, in this case, the stadium. Because remember, this is a mega projects bill. It's not limited to Bears Stadium. It's projects that, have a certain threshold in terms of it's $1 billion, I think. I'd have to double check that myself. But, it's mega projects, regional impact, big dollars spent, qualifies for these special treatments. I mean, that's what they are. 50% of special pilot payments into a property tax relief fund that would then be divided 60% towards property tax rebates for homeowners in the district where the project is located, and 40% into the Illinois Property Tax Relief Fund. This is the provision that Cam Buckner, the lead sponsor here, Chicago Democrat, is most proud of, he said. The project still pays property taxes on a frozen basis and must also make a negotiated special payment, so it's not a tax holiday. And the details here. The project must invest at least $100 million in eligible costs to qualify for these special deals. And then the mega project developer must enter into an incentive agreement with the local municipality, a PLA with project labor agreement, with a goal of putting 20% or more of project-related contracts to minority-owned businesses, and having the company CEO consider the economic benefits the project brings to underserved communities. So you have to get your equity provisions in there, too, which they've done to this point. 312-642-5600 is the alphawealthgroup.com answer and text line if you want to opine on this, if any of this makes enough sense to you to say, yes, we should do this to make sure the Bears stay in Arlington Heights. No, I don't care if the Bears leave Arlington Heights, leave Illinois altogether, and it would be perhaps the most profound political message to the political class, such as it's currently constituted in Illinois, that even the Chicago Bears have left Chicago and Illinois. Roger, South Side, Chicago's Morning Answer.
Sean, on radio. Dan,
Thank you.
Just for instance, what if Arlington Heights, Chicago, and Hammond, what if we just quit catering to these billionaires? Okay, the McCaskey family and the group of those 51 and 49 percenters, okay, the fact that it's even being talked about taxpayer concessions, enterprise zones, entitlements, it's ridiculous. If they do go to Hammond, I'll tell you one thing, comparing it to Soldiers Field. Okay, they're not going to make – one thing about Soldiers Field, at least the businesses around – when the Bears are playing in town 8 times a year, okay, the businesses did well for the day, okay, around the loop, around the downtown area. They're not going to make that mistake in Hammond, and Hammond is on its way to being the next Gary. Any of those people who call into the show who commute in every day like I do, they'll tell you that they're not going to build in a community. The state is going to want that revenue. They'll have gaming there. They'll have restaurants there. It'll all be in one roof. Whereas at least in Chicago, they had, you could go out. The only people who had the club passes and stuff like that here were the, millionaire clubs of Chicago, the western suburbs and the North Shore people. But I mean, why not? Why are we? These people have been stealing for years. The McCaskies, the Hallises across the board, for 16 times a year for their position that they've taken through the pandemic and all the rest of us. they're garbage. It's garbage. It's a garbage product. But happy Friday to everybody.
All right. Thanks for the call, Roger. I mean, at the end of the day, the fundamental problem is, it's a carve out for a business with all of the, larded in, cut me in or cut it out provisions. In this case, the cut me in provisions to build the political support for this special deal. But that's what this is. By definition, it's a special deal. Special legislation for a favored business. That's what it really boils down to when you strip away the names and the marketing and all the palace entering. It's just a special deal for a favored business. And that's how Chicago and Illinois have operated for so long. And I think we passed actually critical mass a while ago in terms of suffering under the weight of that kleptocratic approach to governance. So, of course, this idea of this being a glorious day for property tax relief for Illinois residents. So, the big guy gets everything he wants, but don't worry. They're going to put a few shekels aside into a fund so that the little guys feel like they've gotten a little something too, right? Everybody gets cut in, or enough get cut in that you don't have to cut it out. That's the play. It always is. And it usually works, which is why Illinois is the worst governed state in the history of the country. And Chicago is the worst governed city in America. Not even the Bears can make Chicago make sense. That's for sure. We already know that. That's a fait accompli, which is it should be enough of an indictment of Chicago, but it doesn't seem to really register. It doesn't matter who leaves. It doesn't register. That may be the case at the state level too. But the highest property taxes in the nation, and you're going to be sold, which is what Illinois residents pay, and you're going to be sold a bill of goods that the General Assembly has moved to help the Bears move to Arlington Heights and, realize exponential returns on their $200 million investment in buying that Arlington Park property. Exponential. Parabolic, probably. But you're the real winners here because the Bears stayed in Illinois and you have been told that property tax relief is on the way. 60% for the district where the mega project is and 40% to the state fund that provides a distributed reduction that you'll never even be able to identify. So it won't really exist. Because, of course, property taxes are going up at a rate much faster than this marginal relief promises to provide. So whatever you think about the Bears staying or going, please don't fall for the line of bull jive that this is a win for Joe and Sally taxpayer in Illinois. Tina and Joliet.
Hi, good morning. So it's disgusting to me how hard they're working to keep the Chicago Bears here, and they're bending over backwards. And like you said, this performative baloney about tax relief. When Ken Griffin and Citadel left, they took billions of dollars with them. And Chicago looked at them and said, here's your hat, what's your hurry? They couldn't wait to chase him out of the state, as they've done with every other business. The Bears should leave. They should leave, go to Indiana, and never look back. Every business should. Until we are at a point where I encourage places, don't come here. Pick someplace else. Let's expedite the destruction so we can rebuild.
Thanks for the call, Tina. Appreciate it. All right, coming up at 5:38, the Pete Rose of Special Forces. Should the soldier who bet on Special Forces to arrest Maduro and cashed in, should he be facing charges? He is. Should he be? Should Trump pardon him? We'll discuss 5:38. Let's check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 51 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A $10,000 reward is being offered for information leading to the arrest of the person that staged a deadly mass shooting in Chicago's Little Village neighborhood earlier this week. A 46-year-old man was killed in that shooting and 3 women were wounded. One of them is hospitalized in critical condition. Anyone with information on that shooting is urged to contact Cook County Crime Stoppers. Tipsters can remain anonymous. A Chicago woman is accused of shooting 3 men after they denied her access to a bar on the city's northwest side. Isia Perez has been charged with attempted murder, aggravated battery, aggravated possession of a loaded weapon, and aggravated discharge of a gun. One man who was shot was taken to a hospital in critical condition. 2 other victims were taken to hospitals and listed in fair condition. This report is sponsored by Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Illinois. A better belief system. Believe in a world of wellness. Knowing Blue Cross is lighting the way for your health and wellness journey. Your local trusted partner providing a constellation of support and services where you're always the stars.
Alex Marlow explains what he sees for Iran.
I think Trump's initial plan is that Iran could potentially work with the United States of America to impose a toll. Iran could use some of the funds in order to rebuild their country and to move on to the next era in their governance, where they could perhaps be better, more polite players in the world economy and in the world community, which is so important to so many.
The Alex Marlow Show. Afternoons at 3, right before Sean Thompson at 4 on AM 560. The Answer.
Why would you take your precious metal collections to some fly-by-night roadshow that rolls into town once a year? The only thing you need to do is follow the road to Fox Valley Coins and show your gold or silver to the team. Gold is at an all-time historical high, so don't keep sitting on your coin hoards or old jewelry that you've been saving to sell when the time is right. The time is right now. Prices have never been better on most collector and gold coins. Fox Valley Coins in Naperville is trying to keep up with demand. So they're paying the most ever on not only most gold coins in bars, but also those old coin collections. You might have scarce dates or higher grade coins, so take advantage of the record high market price and the demand now. Whether you're buying or selling, or just want to find out values, trust the team at Fox Valley Coins. Fox Valley Coins is on Route 59, just 1 light north of I-88 at the Naperville-Warrenville border. Family-owned integrity since 1981.
President Trump has triggered a $200 billion tech disruption, and Wall Street is asleep at the switch. This $200 billion investment in chip technology could make today's artificial intelligence chips obsolete. Technology that will make today's AI data centers a thing of the past, like IBM's old mainframes. While most investors are focused on old-fashioned AI, there are 3 companies quietly building a trillion-dollar triangle that could transform every tech sector on Earth. These 3 companies are gearing up to develop and manufacture supercomputers the size of a dinner plate. Institutions like Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street are pouring more than $200 billion into this AI revolution. Investment guru George Gilder has been predicting tech revolutions for more than 40 years, including the iPhone, Netflix, and Amazon. Now he's got his finger on 3 companies whose technology will change tech forever. Log on to TrillionDollarTriangle.com to find out which 3 companies are working on what could be the biggest tech disruption since the internet. TrillionDollarTriangle.com. That's TrillionDollarTriangle.com.
Epic parties start at Staples. Now you can grab Party City balloons, decorations, and tableware, plus matching custom invites, banners, and more right at Staples. That was easy.
Now, your official weather forecast.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The temperature will reach a high of 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Okay, the feds arrested a special forces soldier who made $400,000 in these betting markets, Poly Market, Kalshi. $400,000 he made betting on the removal of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. He bet more than $33,000 just hours before Trump announced Maduro's capture. The Special Forces soldier was reportedly directly involved with the capture. So, trading on inside information. The largest position, a $32,537 bet that Maduro would be out of office by January 31st, resulted in a 1,242% profit. Long odds on that, and they came in, and it generated $404,000. Following the successful trading relating to Maduro, the Special Forces officer in question and in custody sent most of his proceeds to a foreign cryptocurrency vault before depositing them in a newly created online brokerage account. The same day of the operation, he withdrew the majority of his allegedly unlawful proceeds from his Polymarket account, according to the Department of Justice. It's a 38-year-old from Fayetteville, North Carolina, charged with 3 counts of violating the Commodity Exchange Act, each of which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, and 1 count of wire fraud, which carries a maximum sentence of 20 years in prison, and 1 count of an unlawful monetary transaction, which carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison. So technically, he's looking at a max of 60 years in prison if he was convicted on all counts and received the maximum. I don't expect anything of the sort will happen, but just so you have the basics here. So should he be convicted? Should he be prosecuted? Should he be pardoned if prosecutors move forward with this prosecution? 312-642-5600. That's the alphawealthgroup.com answer line to give us a call. You can also text us on that number. Anna Paulina Luna, a Republican congressman from Florida, she says no. He should have to disgorge the money that he made. He should not be prosecuted because Congress-humans get away with insider trading, so why not special forces officers?
Here you have an example of the DOJ saying, this is not fair. We're going to go and we're going to throw the book at this guy, right? Yeah. I'm not necessarily saying what he did is right. However, every single day in Congress, you have multiple members of Congress that are engaging in insider trading. We had an actual ban on this that we pressured leadership to bring to the floor, and we're going to get a vote on it. But Hakeem Jeffries, went and told the Democrats not to support this ban, and we were receiving own pressure from our own leadership on pushing this forward. And yet you have a member who went on this raid, which, by the way, our military members don't get paid a lot. But the member that goes on this raid places a bet, and yet he's facing, I think, up to 50 or 60 years in prison. So there is no double standard of justice, or there is no fair justice in this country if you have members of Congress getting away with it, and this guy doing it every day. So on an unpopular take, I'm going to be asking for him to be pardoned. I'm going to ask that he they disgorge his profits, and that he basically go back to the military, because at the end of the day, again, we have proof of this happening every day. Nancy Pelosi makes 17,000% returns on her stock investments. Yeah, she's not going to jail.
So should we send the Special Forces officer to jail or not? He's an active duty soldier stationed at Fort Bragg in North Carolina. He was involved in the planning and execution of Operation Absolute Resolve, which was the operation to capture Maduro, and had access to sensitive, non-public, classified information about the operation, which he signed a NDA to not divulge, publish, reveal in writing, words, or conduct, or otherwise. But clearly, he did not live up to that NDA. The hypocrisy point, though, I guess there's 2 points. One is the Pete Rose of Special Forces bet on himself, bet on the U.S. military. And 2 is whether or not the fact that Nancy Pelosi has perhaps, I say perhaps because we don't know for certain, the returns seem to be unusually impressive for somebody with no formal experience in the sector, in terms of the stock picking that Anna Paulina Luna was talking about. That's to say it in an understated way. But the larger point, because Congress humans ostensibly get away with insider trading, and there was an effort to rein that in that didn't go anywhere, mainly because of Democrat opposition, then should this guy get a walk, effectively? 312-642-5600. Trump was asked about it yesterday after his prescription drug event in the press gaggle. Didn't have any particular knowledge of it, but you get his immediate reaction.
Mr. President, apparently there was a special forces soldier who was involved in the capture of Venezuelan President Maduro, who was arrested by federal authorities today on suspicion of insider trading and betting on Polymarket. Are you concerned that federal employees are betting on these prediction markets and potentially getting rich?
Well, I don't know about it, but was he betting that they would get him or they wouldn't get him?
It sounds like he was betting on his removal from office, that Maduro would be removed.
Well, that's
it sounds
interesting.
like he was involved in the operation.
That's like Pete Rose betting on his own team. It's a little like Pete Rose. Pete Rose, they kept him out of the Hall of Fame because he bet on his own team. Now, if he bet against his team, that would be no good, but he bet on his own team. I'll look into it, yeah?
I get the sense that Trump is not too worked up about this officer and him betting on the U.S. to do what it did, capture Maduro. But again, I mean, it's sort of the obvious point. Because Congress holds itself to such a low standard, to the extent that there's any discernible standard to which Congress holds itself, that should be the norm. I mean, one of the reasons the military enjoys the respect and support it does virtually across the political spectrum is because they held themselves to a high standard. And more often than not, they abide that standard. Right? The response to somebody getting away with unbecoming or illegal behavior is to address the person getting away with it or the group getting away with it. It's not to excuse somebody else from joining in, right? Pretty straightforward, or no? 312-642-5600 to give us a call or text. Craig in Mount Greenwood.
Hey, thank you, Dave, for taking my call. The woman was talking was exactly right. But here's the thing. This fella here, he should be transferred over. That what they need to do is get him over into Congress or whatever. He's perfect. He passed all the tests and everything so far for entry level and everything. He's getting started. He can become a millionaire, billionaire, and everything over a certain amount of time with his skills there and all that. And it just goes to show you just what scumbags we're dealing with in Congress and everything, because they're exempt from every damn thing. They can get rich, get out of there as millionaires and billionaires by doing nothing. And it's the same thing with the CDL drug tests and everything like that. All the drivers and truck and everything have to take the test. Everything. Congress people, a bunch of dope heads and coke heads and perverts and everything, drunks and everything in Congress. They don't have to take any tests either.
Okay, all right. Thanks for the call, Greg. Right. So again, my question: do you want special forces and the U.S. military to hold itself to the standard that Congress does? Do you think if that happened, that would be beneficial to the military, beneficial to America? Would it probably result in a loss of the regard that we have for the military? Mike in Hammond.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. On one hand, how is there a bet like that even available? But on the other hand,
well, yeah.
Okay,
good question.
If you want to give him an honorable discharge and say, don't do that ever again, I mean, I honestly, he put his life on the line to make this mission happen as well. People don't talk about that. He made it, helped make it a successful mission. That was the thing that they had to get done. I think he should be held to the same standard as Congress as far as jail time. But if you want to punish him, demote him. But this is a perfect example of of how, like I said, Nancy Pelosi, Ro Khan, Mitch McConnell. That's all. I have sympathy for the guy, to be honest with you. Hey, who got the $25 million that was a bounty on that guy? Did these special forces share in that?
No, I don't think that. No, I don't think that's how it works. Thanks for the call, Mike. The bounty on Maduro, that is actually interesting. I assume. Did Trump? Am I remembering correctly that Trump said something like that though? That the guys that executed this mission should split the bounty, which wouldn't be offensive to me, but I don't think that's how it works. It creates some potential misaligned incentives, I'd suggest. But that's a good question on the bounty. Text from 847, Trump should have said, you don't need insider information to know the U.S. military is going to win every time. No, that's true, but I mean, it's very specific. It wasn't just, are they going to get Maduro? It was, is he going to be out of office by January 31st was the big bet that he put, $32,000 on to generate $400,000 in winnings. So it's, some very specific. This the kind of thing that's difficult to assess if you don't have the sort of information that he had. Again, he did violate an NDA too. Text from where did I see? Yeah, text from 630. No prison time, but dishonorable discharge due to Uniform Code of Military Justice offense for gambling, conduct unbecoming of an officer, divulging information. So no prison time, but dishonorable discharge. I could go with that. Robert, Downers Grove.
Yes. I think the person that's actually creating the bet, why is Vegas putting odds on something like that? It's not like insider trading. It's somebody wants a sucker bet, and the officer took the sucker bet.
Well, thanks for the call. It's not a sucker bet if you have inside information and you can turn $32,000 into 404. Who's the sucker? It's these new betting outfits like Kalshi and Polymarket that are, have people give people the ability to wager on, all sorts of things, public policy outcomes and so forth. We talked a few weeks back about a guy who bet against Doge, realizing the $1 trillion in savings. Oh, I think the bet was something on the order of, and this is in the early days when Doge was being stood up, and the promise was $1 trillion in savings and so on and so forth. And the bet, I think, was something on the order of the government will spend more money this year, even the Doge year, than it did last year, and that turned out to be true. And there was more specifics to it than that, but that was sort of the gist of it. So you're just using it as another example. There's all sorts of things you can bet on, not just athletic contests, thanks to these new betting outfits. Mike in Union.
Morning, Dan. Happy Friday. 2 points. One, the law is the law. As conservatives, we demand that everybody follow the law. So we can't have it both ways. Second, the Department of Justice reports to who? The president didn't know about this, or Kash Patel? I mean, thanks, brother. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks for the call, Mike. The president may not have known about it. I don't know if this necessarily rises to this level, although, it's just because of the odd nature of it, you knew it was going to get a lot of attention. So somebody at the Department of Justice may have wanted to give the White House the heads up that this was coming down. Joe in Arlington Heights.
Hey, good morning, Dan. As much as everybody kind of likes the underdog hero soldier part of the story, this can't be allowed to in any way be permitted. Imagine if he would have bet in the other direction and was part of the team. He's betting that we lose so he can make money. I mean, the conflict of interest is obvious. It's like my heart doctor, going to bet whether or not the heart surgery is successful before he cuts me open.
I hope.
I don't think so.
Yeah, boy. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the call. Joe, I appreciate it. The Pete Rose argument, has some merit. I mean, for something like being allowed into the Hall of Fame when you're the all-time hits leader. It has less merit when it involves this particular set of facts, I'm glad he was betting on America, betting on himself, since he was part of the operation. But it's, so I appreciate the Pete Rose analogy, but it doesn't quite hold when you're talking about something as serious, something that is more serious than baseball. Let's just say it that way. Chris in Hampshire.
I think that Trump should do what Trump does so well about draining the swamp and sign an executive order that says anything Congress can get away with, we all can get away with. That would either clean everything up or make everything go to hell.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Chris. Well, there have been efforts before. I think there may have even been an EO in his first term to that effect, like Congress has to live under the laws. It's not exempted from the laws that it passes. This was particularly pronounced. Maybe this goes back, during Obamacare, with the initial iteration of Obamacare, where members of Congress were had more options and more choices and better coverage than Obamacare was providing for the hoi polloi. So there's always been this sort of rhetorical position that, Congress has to live under the laws it makes just like anybody else. But that's not how it actually works in practice. Need more teeth than, I think, just an executive order, I guess is what I'm saying. Jim in Warrenville.
Yeah, good morning. Being a former forces guy and having signed one of those non-disclosures, I can appreciate both sides of this. I do kind of applaud his creativity, but there's some other considerations there. Number one, if that bet is on an open forum, somebody might start putting two and two together. There's a lot of
That's a good point.
I do like Representative Luna's solution to the problem, which is take all the money, maybe give them some sort of military discipline through the UCMJ, and let him go on with his career. I still know a lot of guys that are active, and I'm sure that they wouldn't be pleased with the situation. I'm not totally enamored with the guy, but I understand what he was doing. But from the long view, you have to have some sort of discipline and responsibility, because if everybody started doing that, the next thing you'd be compromising all sorts of operations, and that's the most important aspect of this whole thing.
Yeah, that's right.
I do like his ingenuity.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
Thanks for the call, Jim. Yes, creative. Perhaps he might have wanted to run this by an attorney before he chose to do it. But here's the thing. Think about, what if it was, I don't know, the one of the heads of the armed services. It was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. Then you have people betting on things they want to see happen, so it influences, for example, the recommendations they make to politicians all the way up to the president. It influences the assessments they make. So that's, that compromises the mission. I mean, that's a great point, or has the potential to. And you obviously want to avoid that. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yes, he should absolutely be held to the same standards as Congress, allowed to do insider training, not be held accountable, be given a lifetime pension, and free lifetime health care. The same standards.
And he should be able to sexually harass whoever he wants, too, right?
Yes.
Thanks for the call, Bill. George in Naperville.
Yes, Dan, it's not a good look, but the Democrats will probably want his scalp because it's tied to a Trump action.
Thanks for the call, George. Yeah, I don't know. If this will be interesting to see if anybody wants to sort of rise to the Anna Paulina Luna challenge and come at this guy hard. I tend to doubt it. I tend to think that, and I wouldn't be surprised if Trump interceded on his behalf. That would not surprise me. And maybe that's just reading his initial reaction as comparing him to Pete Rose. But like I said, I think what Jim from Warrenville said, who's a special forces as well, some of the text, not 60 years in prison, but discipline. And please, the last thing we need to do is reduce the standards we expect from our military to the standards we've come to have to endure from members of Congress. It's now 6 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
Holding all the cards, I'm CJ Pop of Fox News. President Trump believes he has the upper hand in the ongoing war with Iran.
They have all new leadership and they're fighting like cats and dogs for who's going to control.
The president believes Iran's leadership is in tatters as he continues to play the waiting game.
President Trump indicates he is not rushing to make a deal with Iran because he says infighting within the regime's leadership has complicated negotiating efforts. He says Iran is the one under pressure, arguing their infrastructure could crumble if they don't get their oil moving soon. Iran's supreme leader now issuing a rare statement denying that Iran's regime has a rift. He says due to the strange unity created among compatriots, a fracture has occurred in the enemy. Cohesion has become even greater and more steel-like, and the enemies will become more wretched and diminished.
That's Fox's Madeline Rivera. A third aircraft carrier has arrived in the Strait of Hormuz. As the naval blockade continues, the Department of War will deliver an update on the conflict in the Middle East at 8 a.m. Eastern. War Secretary Pete Hegseth, along with America's top general Dan Kane, will be in the Pentagon press briefing room. And a U.S. soldier is accused of using inside information regarding the capture of a world leader to reap a huge windfall.
Gannon Ken Van Dyke is charged with violating the Commodity Exchange Act, wire fraud, and unlawful monetary transaction. Federal prosecutors say the 38-year-old active duty soldier in the U.S. Army was involved in the planning and execution of the operation to capture Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. He's accused of opening an account on the prediction market site Polymarket in December, using classified information to bet more than $30,000 that Maduro would be out by January, allegedly winning more than $400,000. A rep for the FBI saying in a statement Van Dyke allegedly betrayed his fellow soldiers by utilizing classified information for his own financial gain. Kristen Goodwin, Fox News.
America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 63 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A proposed millionaire's tax was shot down late Wednesday in the Illinois House of Representatives. Democratic leadership say they're not able to get enough votes, but they're not giving up just yet. Sean Reed reports.
Proposed House Joint Resolution Constitutional Amendment 21 would have raised the tax rate on income earned over $1 million. Tax dollars brought in would have been split equally between property tax relief and school funding. Despite not gathering a large enough coalition to pass the tax before the deadline, House Speaker Emanuel Chris Welch said his caucus will not be giving up.
We were very close, but close is not enough, and we're committed to getting it right.
House Republicans stood strong against the tax, questioning the feasibility of the proposed tax relief. In a statement Wednesday, Republicans said Democrats should take action to pass their initiative to fund property tax relief grants for school districts across the state. Since the House will not return until after the deadline to put a millionaire's tax on the ballot in November, the proposal may not be brought back to the floor by Democrats for another 2 years. I'm Sean Reed.
The Chicago Bears say a mega projects bill passed by the Illinois House needs additional amendments in order to make Arlington Heights a feasible stadium site. The Bears say they support Illinois leaders as they determine the path to making essential changes and aligning on infrastructure funding. And Mayor Brandon Johnson's office says a new markets tax credit allocation from the nonprofit Chicago Development Fund provided $10 million for a new health and wellness hub on Chicago's west side. City officials cut the ribbon at the Sankofa Village Wellness Center on Thursday. The mayor's office says the project also used $5.9 million in proceeds from the sale of city land, as well as $1.5 million in Chicago Recovery Plan funding. News is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
For over a decade, AM 560 has marked the start of summer with a night of cigar smoking and great conversation. And this year, we're proud to welcome the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News to Cigar Night. He's Alex Marlowe, and he'll join AM 560's Dan Proft and Sean Thompson on Tuesday, May 19th at Goldberg's Farm in Pingree Grove for a night you won't forget. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cigar. That's 560theanswer.com/cigar. Sponsored by Liberty Cigar Company. Sign up for the AM 560 Answer Advantage to get early alerts on event ticket sales, special discounts, and contest opportunities. Sign up today at 560theanswer.com/advantage.
Let Cole Digital turn your outdoor space into the ultimate entertainment setup. With a 75-inch SunBright outdoor TV that can stay out year-round and great sound throughout. Like planter speakers on the patio, high-quality rock speakers that blend right into your landscape, or bronze garden speakers that blend into the environment. Our technicians will dig a hole and install an in-ground subwoofer for incredible bass and the best in sound quality. We also install outdoor-rated access points for Wi-Fi coverage throughout your yard, and cameras that let you keep an eye on everything with motion-activated recording. Tour our Cole Digital Design Center, 15,000 square feet of audio, video, and great design ideas. Cole Digital is family-owned by conservatives that share your values, and we're based right in Frankfurt. Visit Cole Digital today and schedule your consultation. ColeDigital.com. That's KOLE digital.com. Or call 815-469-2000, and we'll bring the showroom to you. 815-469-2000. Cole Digital, what smart living is all about.
My name is Christine, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, was a healthy 34-year-old, and 3 months later, he was gone. Thankfully, he had life insurance. Ethos made it so easy. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. 100% online, no medical exam. Life insurance didn't take away the loss, but it did give us the space to just grieve.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. Ethos.com/save. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
I didn't switch to Pure Talk just because I wanted to save 50% off the same 5G service I'd been paying twice as much for. I switched because I like the idea of being in business with a wireless company that supports our veterans in a meaningful way. Pure Talk also creates American jobs every day by keeping their entire operation in this country. I appreciate that. If you feel the same, dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Picture warm Gulf breezes, turquoise waters, white sand beaches. Now, add evenings of conversation with Salem Media's Mike Gallagher, Scott Jennings, Larry O'Connor, and Jennifer Horn. This November, sail from Fort Lauderdale to the Bahamas, Jamaica, the Cayman Islands, and Mexico on a 7-day journey built for those who love this country. Book your cabin today when you text the word cruise to 94878. Celebrate America's 250th anniversary the right way on the Gulf of America Cruise. Book your cabin now. Text the word cruise to 94878.
Rashaw talks about building income in retirement.
You know, you can actually structure it in a way that have that $4,000 a month coming in the door every single month. So you don't have to look at the stock ticker and say, oh, the stock market's up today, stock market's down. You still got that $4,000 a month, and having that opportunity to take the vacations and do all the fun things in retirement that you always dreamed to do.
Unleash your wealth, Saturday at 7 a.m. and 2 p.m. on AM 560, The Answer.
Gain insight into building strong marriages and raising godly children with Focus on the Family with Jim Daly each weekday at 11:30 a.m. on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Looking great this morning on the Edens, 14 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. You've got 17 minutes inbound on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn Interchange. A little bit sluggish on the outbound side at 27 minutes, very slow as you head towards Mannheim Road. You've got 14 minutes in both directions on the Ike from Wolf to the Old Post Office, 27 in, 32 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore, 60 minutes inbound on the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange, doing great on the outbound side at 11 minutes. News and Traffic is a service of Steiner Home. Building homes is more than a business. It's a calling. Family owned and dedicated to building custom homes with care, integrity, and craftsmanship you can trust. Visit SteinerHomesLTD.com. Northwest Indiana's leading home builder, Steiner Homes. Love where you live. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Airlines Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The high will reach 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Postscript to our discussion about the Special Forces soldier arrested for the big bet on getting Maduro out of Venezuela by January 31. I suggested that Trump's reaction leads me to think that he may intercede on this soldier's behalf to pardon him, so he may face military justice, but not civilian criminal justice. I was at text from 847. Are you going to place a bet on that? No, I am not. But yes, very funny. Okay, look, I am not somebody who cheerleads people losing their jobs or suffering financial hardship. You know, there but for the grace of God. So I get it. You want to have empathy for people. But there are limits. This piece in the New York Times about USAID workers who were laid off in the heady days of Doge that we were just referencing a bit earlier. It's sort of, it's not sort of. It starts from a premise that is very much in question, to be generous. That this industry that was eliminated overnight was real. The New York Times, when the Trump administration dismantled the sprawling global aid agency last year, it wiped out virtually an entire industry, international development, that had been based in Washington since USAID's creation in 1961 under JFK. Nearly all of the agency's 16,000 employees were laid off. An estimated 280,000 contractors, partners, and local hires worldwide lost their jobs as well. A year later, people have plowed through their savings, cashed out retirement funds, and moved in with friends and relatives. Former USAID workers who have done informal surveys estimate that less than half have found full-time work, with many making less than before. An estimated 1/3 are unemployed. Others are in part-time work. D.C. currently has the highest unemployment rate in the nation, nearly 7%, in large part because of major reductions in the federal workforce. Yeah, it's down about 12% since Trump took office in his second term. Well, yeah, that's unfortunate. I'm not cheerleading it. I have empathy for people that are struggling financially, struggling to find work. But you still have to ask the question, should this agency have existed? What did this agency do? What do the people within that agency do? What exactly are their skill sets for the private marketplace? Maybe those are some difficult questions that deserve to be examined, too, rather than just the maudlin stories about, to the extent they're really maudlin. Listen to this one. Cheryl Cohen, 57, was making $272,000 a year as a senior vice president USAID at a USAID-funded nonprofit when she was let go at the end of March of last year. Last month, she had an online interview for a $19 an hour job managing a Penzeys spices store near her home in Falls Church, Virginia. Her take-home pay would not cover her mortgage, but said she was eager to do something other than spending down her savings and has applied for 60 jobs. I mean, right. $272,000 a year as an SVP of a nonprofit. A year later, and apparently applications for 60 jobs later, she's got an interview for a $19 an hour position at a spice store. Well, does it say something about the job market? Perhaps. Does it say something about Cheryl Cowan and what exactly her marketable skills are outside of government? And does it say something about the nonprofit that she was running or was in leadership and its business model, such that if government funding dried up, the nonprofit dried up, and the positions and the substantial salaries with them? So I'm sorry that Cheryl Cowan is going through these difficult times, but doesn't this also speak to the fact that this entire, quote, industry that was shut down by the Trump administration wasn't real? 312-642-5600, the alphawealth.com call-in and text line. She said after long months without work, she made her doubt herself. Did I really do all those great things I thought I did? Was I really good once? I mean, Alicia Bear, 53, who 25-year career at USAID as a contractor, ran reproductive health programs in Africa. Single mom, 2 teenagers, who moved in with a neighbor last year so she could rent out her home in Rockville, Maryland to cover the mortgage. She has since moved back, but says because of complications with Medicaid, she is delayed getting a biopsy for what her doctors think is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. We were running these large programs looking for vulnerable population. We were running these large programs looking for vulnerable populations, trying to support them, and then you find yourself a user of the system. She said she feels a stigma relying on social welfare programs, quote, having to tell people you're unemployed all the time and going to the doctors and saying Medicaid. It's a humbling experience to have to ask all the time for help. And on and on and on. There are other cases, and I don't mean to be dismissive of it, but there's not a person here that their anecdote being recounted by the New York Times that wasn't in the position in the government, in a government-supported nonprofit as a contractor for a long time, which speaks to job security, and wasn't making at least wasn't making 6 figures or good 6 figures. So, yeah, I mean, every story is obviously intended to be like, oh, that mean Donald Trump reducing or eliminating USAID, reducing the size of the federal government and thus increasing the unemployment rate in D.C. And here's all of these people who are suffering as a result of these policies. But, yeah, again, you have a government that is too big, that is attempting to do too many things. Many of those things it's not very good at. Many of those things, even if it would have been good at, shouldn't be doing. Is this something the government should do? Question that's never asked or really assessed. And so you're doing something wrong this entire time and you want to right it and right size that government. Well, that's necessarily going to involve reducing headcount. It's not personal. But I got to tell you, when you get into this a little bit more, USAID, I think we've forgotten the politics they were playing with our money while they were enjoying these six-figure salaries. Not necessarily the people mentioned in the New York Times piece. But I do like that phrase, that accidental admission from the woman who ran a reproductive health program in Africa, say, we look for vulnerable populations. What are you look? You're looking for them? That's the job, to look for them? If there's a solution, or there's a problem for which there's a solution to be had, that should be readily identifiable. You don't stand up an agency or create a job to look. USAID, folding into our top story this week as far as I'm concerned. USAID was funding the Southern Poverty Law Center. Oh. USAID was funding the Southern Poverty Law Center through an organization called the Tide Center based in San Francisco. From 2016 through 2024, USAID gave $27 million to the Tides Network to, quote, strengthen global civil society organizations, promote transparency and accountability, citizen engagement, and serve as fiscal agent for USAID's Civil Society Innovation Initiative. Oh, man. As I said, what if this industry called international development is phony? As phony as the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate map. Then do you have a little less sympathy? Maybe some of those people that told their stories to the New York Times should be asked about this. I'd like comment. The Tide Center set up a fund through its Tides Foundation with the money for the Southern Poverty Law Center's Vote Your Voice, quote-unquote, initiative. And, of course, the executive director of the Tide Center was the co-chair of Women for Obama in Atlanta, Georgia. I mean, it's all what we've talked about before. We've talked about at the state level. These NGOs that are set up for sinecures and soft landing spots for the politically connected, mainly on the left, to go into government and out. Take a position, become a contractor. Take a position, become a lobbyist. Take a position, become the senior vice president at some government-funded nonprofit. Doing whatever. Doing things that are completely impossible to measure, and under the head, and under the cover, you can do politics, which is what they're doing. Strengthen global civil society organizations, promote transparency, promote accountability, and citizen engagement. What does that look like? The Vote Your Voice initiative. It's just their typical skullduggery, dressed up in high-minded rhetoric. That's all it is. And everybody knows it. But I just love that the intersection of USAID and the Southern Poverty Law Center is really rich. Unsurprising, too. 312-642-5600. Mark Andreessen, the great venture capitalist, posted a couple of comments on X that I think are worth pointing to. His question, this question he presented as one posed to him. Mark, why do you care about SPLC's crimes and other activist companies, government agencies who may have done the same? He said, I sat in so many meetings for a decade where these groups determined who got canceled, debanked, and censored. Wholly un-American, people need to go to jail. Exactly. And by the way, all of those not necessarily those individuals in the New York Times piece, but they were part of an organization that was part of doing exactly what Mark Andreessen says here, that I just read. How about an accounting there, since they're so interested in promoting accountability? How about some transparency there, since they're so interested in promoting transparency at exorbitant rates? Andreessen also employed Grok. He did. So Grok, we all just discovered the SPLC has allegedly been funding some of the worst people and groups it claims to oppose. What are other activist pressure groups that advocate censorship, deplatforming of their enemies that could be doing the same things? Grok's answer, groups like the ADL, Media Matters, CCDH, operate on similar models, identifying enemies to fuel donations and advocacy. No proven SPLC style fraud yet, but their incentives mirror the risks exposed here. Perpetual threats keep the funds flowing. Transparency audits would help everyone. Sure. I'd love for the ADL to volunteer. And Media Matters. These are all left-wing organizations. And this is where these apparatchiks in government, agencies like USAID, if they parachute out and they don't get an SVP job at some government-funded nonprofit, they wind up with David Brock at Media Matters or at ADL, Anti-Defamation League, engaged in the same political advocacy and big game hunting of their quote-unquote enemies that SPLC was doing, that they do inside and outside of government, that we're supposed to fund in perpetuity and with blank checks. Everybody makes $275,000. Why not? Small price to pay for promoting global civic societal institutions and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Ed in Oak Brook, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
You know what, Dan? I don't feel any sympathy at all for any of these people. In fact, I'm very happy to hear this because, you know what? That agency was a dumping ground for the kids of legislators and political figures. I was working for a non-for-profit, and we got a bunch of them because we were getting funding from the government. And they were nice people, I'll give you that. They were polite and everything, but they didn't know a thing about anything. It was just a dumping ground. And I remember I've been around a long time. I remember riding on the train with these federal workers when people were getting laid off like crazy. That was in, 2008 or something like that. You know what? They were smirking, and everyone else was worried about maybe they won't even see this person anymore because people were just getting laid off. I feel nothing for them, and I'm glad to hear it, and have a nice day.
All right, Ed, thanks for the call. Sean and Darien.
Yeah, I worked for my brother for 25 years now. I've had a business for 14 in construction as a mason contractor. My guys have been up for 4 months because, if I don't hook a job, it is what it is, and I feel horrible. But, I bid 50 jobs to get one. So if it's raining, these guys aren't working. So, I have no sympathy either. They're living in a make-believe world. Get into the private sector like I have by my whole life, and then you'll see what reality is like. Thanks.
Thanks for the call, Sean. Text from 815. Only $19 an hour as a manager. Penzie's owner is a big-time leftist. Yeah, I know, that's right. Why not at least $30 an hour? It's true. Why isn't Penzie's paying a living wage? Oh, right, because they have a bottom line, unlike USAID. As Cheryl Cowan is finding out. That was the woman who was making $272,000 a year as a senior VP at a USAID-funded nonprofit when she was let go last year. Can't find a job. The only interview she has is for a manager of a Penzie's spice store for $19 an hour. But right, absolutely, 30, 50, 100. Why not give her the $272,000 she was making at USAID? Equity. Roger DeKalb.
Hey, Dan, great topic. Yeah, so every one of these boo-hoo statements from these laid-off federal workers or whoever got laid off working for the government, these overpaid jobs, should be, look, this happened to me, and I voted Democrat every time. I voted for my job and my overpaid job over country and everything else. Nothing else mattered to me but my job. Keep voting Democrat. That's what you'll get, people.
Thanks for the call, Roger. This is an interesting comment on X, too, talking about Cheryl Cohen's vignette specifically. Zaruthstra is the handle on X. Much of the sexual market dysfunction plus fertility crisis, specifically mediocre women convinced of their superiority to men of equal caliber, is downstream of those same women pulling cartoonishly inflated salaries from cartoonishly inflated fake email jobs, a racket underwritten and enforced in part by the civil rights abomination and its insidious tentacles threaded throughout the DEI and HR superplex. Wow. That's a riff. Some truth in that, though. Sort of a ancillary topic, but not an irrelevant one. I'm talking about the profiles You see the profiles in the New York Times, and they fit that description. And if you've ever interacted with some of these agencies, the agencies that fit the description, government or nonprofit, and some of the people in them, Joe in Naperville.
Yeah, $272,000 a year. Crimea River, 99% of us won't make that. And here's another thought, Dan. She can't get a job for more than $19 an hour. Doesn't that speak to her qualifications? If she was so good at her job and she did so well, how come she can only get one for $19? Maybe because she's never had to meet a bottom line. Maybe because she's never had to meet a deadline. Maybe because all the money was just funneled to her and she had to do nothing, which her resume probably shows.
Thanks for the call, Joe. And by the way, this SPLC thing, we're just getting started here. Now that there's some scrutiny and you're looking at where some of the money has moved. Remember, as we talked about earlier in the week, an estimated more than $800 million in assets under management at SPLC. Corey DeAngelis found hundreds of thousands of dollars at Southern Poverty Law Center sent to the NEA. Of course. They also fund leftist news outlets like the Texas Tribune. Megan Basham on that. So they create the groups that produce the hate so they can put their cartography skills to work, creating their hate map, so that a news outlet, quote unquote, they fund, can report on it. John Stossel is another one who's been on the SPLC trail, Southern Poverty Law Center trail, for a long time, as we have, as Professor William Jacobson from Cornell, who we spoke with yesterday, has. This is not a surprise to anybody who's been paying attention to what SPLC has done over the last couple of decades, but it's just, unfortunately, only a few conservatives who have been.
There are dangerous hate groups in America who will warn us about them. The media haven't answered.
The Southern Poverty Law Center.
The Southern Poverty Law Center. The Southern Poverty Law Center, based in that building in Alabama, calls itself the premier group monitoring hate groups. Looking at their map of such groups, you'd think America was consumed by hate. I once believed in the center's mission. Well-meaning people still do. Apple just gave them $1 million. But what donors don't know is that today the center smears people who don't deserve to be smeared.
The presence of radical Islam.
This woman grew up in Somalia, suffered female genital mutilation. So now she speaks out against radical Islam. For that, the center put her on its list.
Multiculturalism failed these communities.
This man was once an Islamic extremist, but then he decided radical Islam was wrong, and now he criticizes the radicals. The center labels him an anti-Muslim extremist, too.
Join the fight against hate and bigotry.
Visit SPLcenter.org.
I do think that we have a problem with hate in this country.
We put about 10 of these major hate groups out of business.
The center's leaders, Richard Cohen and Morris Dees, would not talk to me. So commentator Nomiki Kant stepped up to defend them.
They have a long history of fighting against extremists like the KKK.
Years ago, Harper's Magazine reported that the center's the wealthiest civil rights group in America, one that spent most of its time and money on a fundraising campaign. Now, Morris Dees did once promise to stop fundraising once his endowment hit $55 million. But when he reached $55 million, he changed that to $100 million, saying that would allow them to cease costly fundraising. But when they reached $100 million, they didn't stop. Today,
they have an endowment that now is over $320 million, much of which is in offshore accounts, Caymans and places like that.
How do you know?
Oh, we look at their 990s.
And it says Cayman Islands?
Yeah.
They pay some of their people more than $400,000 a year.
Well, it's 2017. It costs a lot of money to exist in this world.
The Southern Poverty Law Center now lists people like Ben Carson, Laura Ingraham, and Jeannie Pirro as extremists. But it doesn't list Antifa the hate group that beats up people on the right. The center's become a hate group itself. It's now a left-wing, money-grabbing slander machine.
Yeah, and it's not the only one. Thanks to all the funding that it provides to all the other left-wing, hateful slander machines. Let's check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 66 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A train derailment on Chicago's far north side is to blame for the suspension of service on several Chicago Transit Authority train lines. Fire officials say a CTA train derailed last night in the 7500 block of North Polina as it approached the Howard station. All passengers were removed from the train. No injuries were reported. Rail service was suspended on the yellow and purple lines as well as a red line between Howard and the Thorndale stations. Cook County Crime Stoppers is offering a reward of up to $10,000 for information leading to an arrest in a deadly Little Village shooting. Authorities say a man and 3 women were standing near the sidewalk Wednesday in the 3400 block of West 26th Street when they were all shot. All 4 were sent to the hospital where the man later died. This report is a service of Team Hochberg. They've helped thousands of AM 560 listeners with the best rates and service. Let Team Hochberg help you by visiting 56david.com or calling 855-563-2843. That's 56david.com. Atlantic Coast Mortgage, Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 613114. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Looking for a powerful way to support your immune system? Now's your chance to win a free bottle of Virago, the immune enhancement cocktail made with 23 science-backed ingredients, including vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and natural nutraceuticals designed to support your body's natural defenses. 10 winners will each receive a free bottle. Hey, don't miss your shot to boost your wellness routine. Enter today at 560theanswer.com/immune. That's 560theanswer.com/IMMUNE.
Hi, I'm Ken Mariotti, owner of Woodland Windows and Doors, a third-generation family-owned business since 1969. We know you're bombarded by choices when shopping for new windows or doors, so we're inviting you to experience the Woodland difference. For decades, we have been transforming living spaces with Marvin Windows, a fifth-generation family business. Marvin replacement windows have been known to increase the warmth of your cold rooms by 10 degrees. Think about that, 10 degrees warmer. When you welcome Woodland into your home, you will get a product expert to transform your living spaces, full-time, dedicated professional installers that you can trust in your home, along with the best products like Marvin. These are the reasons we're proud of our 5-star reviews and family legacy. No gimmicks, no pressure, and upfront pricing are why Woodland Windows and Doors is your trusted window and door expert in Chicagoland. Visit woodlandwindows.com to book your free in-home expert consultation. That's woodlandwindows.com or stop by our showroom at the corner of Lake and Geary in Roselle.
Advantage Gold, America's #1 precious metals company, is sounding the alarm that a storm is coming and that now is the time to diversify your portfolio before it's too late. That's why we're offering an emergency gold and silver protection kit valued at $49, absolutely free for anyone who calls today at 800-900-8000. This kit includes critical information for investors with a retirement account seeking to own physical gold and silver but want to do it tax and penalty free. Advantage Gold has helped investors protect and secure their wealth with physical gold and silver since 2014. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 and we'll rush your emergency gold and silver kit plus a free copy of Ken Rogoff's book, Our Dollar, Your Problem. See how gold and silver can help you protect and secure your wealth with the help of Advantage Gold. Results vary. Consult your tax advisor before investing. Call 800-900-8000. That's 800-900-8000.
This is Ed Morrissey of HotAir.com for Town Hall. Donald Trump's decision to extend the ceasefire with Iran created some frustration among those who support the war. Iran has never been a reliable negotiating partner, so why keep offering more chances for a deal? Trump would likely take a deal if he could verify compliance, especially one that transfers the nuclear dust. However, Trump understands that airstrikes are less likely to produce his real objective in the war, regime change, than the blockade of Iran. The Iranian regime has spent 47 years attempting to immanentize their peculiar apocalyptic eschaton. The mullahs pursued nuclear weapons to start an apocalypse that would produce the messianic 12th Imam and spread their tyranny across the globe. Trump is now trying to immanentize the regime's eschaton by forcing the cracks between its factions to produce a collapse. The blockade may well provide the best catalyst for regime change, which is the only real guarantee for security and peace in the region. Trump can afford to wait out the IRGC and let economic strangulation take its course.
Hair Volume from New Nordic will make your hair look thick and healthy. Hair Volume is available online at Amazon and newnordicusa.com or in the hair care aisle at your local CVS.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still doing really good on the Edens, just 14 minutes in both directions from Lake Cook to Montrose. You've got 19 in, 25 out on the Kennedy. From O'Hare to the Byrne Interchange outbound is a little bit sluggish as you approach Mannheim Road. Now about 15 minutes in both directions on the Ike from Wolf to the Oak Post Office. 29 in, 22 out on the Stevenson. From Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. And doing pretty good on the Dan Ryan. Inbound is 18 minutes from 95th to the Byrne Interchange. Outbound is 10, a slight tap on the brakes inbound between 47th Street and the Stevenson. This report is a service of Capital One. Earn unlimited double miles on every purchase with the Capital One Venture X business card. Big purchasing power means you can spend more and earn more. The Capital One Venture X business card, what's in your wallet? Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The temperature will reach a high of 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by Forever Remodeling. Stress-free and high-quality remodeling. View their stunning transformations online at the number 4everremodeling.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Mark Dubowitz, the CEO of the Foundation for the Defense of Democracies. If you had told me a few years ago this is where we'd be on Iran, I'd have said you were high. Number one, nuke program set back years. Enrichment and reprocessing gutted. Weaponization sites destroyed. Fordo inoperable. Natanz in ruins. A generation of senior nuclear scientists eliminated. It's one. Two, ballistic missiles program crippled. Monthly production down from 100 to near zero. Roughly half the regime's missiles and launchers destroyed. The IRGC Aerospace Force commander who ran the missile enterprise dead. Number three, air defense is devastated. American and Israeli air power dominating Iranian skies with strike aircraft operating over the country with near impunity. Number four, full economic warfare. Not just OFAC sanctions anymore, but military pressure layered on top. Naval blockade, near zero oil exports, choked imports, wrecked steel and petrochemical sectors, triple-digit inflation, and a currency that is effectively worthless. Number five, regime decapitation. Khamenei dead, Larijani dead, hundreds of senior IRGC intel military commanders dead, including the IRGC commander-in-chief, the Armed Forces Chief of Staff, and the Aerospace Force commander. The son, the gay cardboard Ayatollah, inherited a hollowed-out regime with no supreme authority and a gutted command structure, and he reportedly is in bad shape, perhaps needing a prosthetic leg, and sending handwritten notes through couriers to personnel. Number six, the region turning on Tehran. Gulf states shutting down the sanctions, busting money laundering and financial escape routes the regime had relied on for years. No Arab capital willing to throw Iran a lifeline. China and Russia providing limited support. Number seven, proxy network shattered. Hezbollah and Hamas heavily degraded. Houthi political leadership taking direct Israeli strikes. Number 8, Syrian corridor severed. Assad is gone. The new government in Damascus is actively blocking Iranian arms transfers to Hezbollah, arresting smugglers, and publicly declaring Syria will no longer serve as a transit corridor for Tehran's terrorists. The land bridge to the Mediterranean that took it decades to build is effectively closed. Number 9, Lebanon pivoting west. You just, yesterday, extension of the ceasefire for 3 weeks with Israel. Lebanon pivoting west. With Hezbollah battered and resupply choked, Israel and Lebanon have opened direct peace talks for the first time since 1983, aimed at a permanent agreement and Hezbollah's disarmament. Beirut now asserting that the Lebanese armed forces alone are responsible for national defense. This is a direct repudiation of Hezbollah's resistance claim. Number 10, deterrence exposed as a bluff. 4 direct attacks on Israel, April 24, October 24, June 25, March 26, failed to impose strategic costs and instead triggered heavy retaliation. Iran couldn't even use Syria as a launch pad. Number 11, economy hollowed out from within. Power shortages, water crises, factory shutdowns, pension unrest, and mass protests. Nationwide demonstrations erupted in December 25 after a year of economic freefall with bazaris, oil workers, and truckers, the regime's traditional support base, joining strikes across all 31 provinces. Running out of oil storage space, fuel shortages, the worst crisis since '79. Number 12, scientific and technical brain drain. Beyond the nuclear experts, Iran has lost a generation of irreplaceable expertise in missile design, centrifuge engineering, and weapons development. The survivors are harder to recruit and easier to deter. And number 13, naval power decimated. The regular Navy shattered, IRGC Navy taking growing losses as CENTCOM moves to reopen Hormuz. That's the strategic picture, writes Mark Dubowitz. It's extraordinary. It's not to say it's over, but just taking stock of what has been accomplished. And as he said, if you were providing a geopolitical assessment of Iran and America's posture towards Iran a 3 years ago, to, if you subscribe to this description of the state of play, to be here on this day 2 or 3 years later is extraordinary. For more on the topic, please be joined by Gabriel, I hope I pronounced the name right, Alethriou, am I close? Co-founder of Astro Analytica. He also serves as a senior fellow for space power at the Council on Geostrategy in London. Gabriel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Hi, good to be with you.
How badly did it?
Good pronunciation on my name, but
okay.
Not quite there. But
hey, tell me.
Eleftheriou.
Eleftheriou. Eleftheriou. Okay, all right.
It's a Greek name, actually, but it means freedom as well. So.
Oh, perfect. I love it.
I quite like
Great.
it.
So I mean, you heard my recitation of Dubowitz's assessment of the strategic picture right now. Do you anything you take issue with? Do you generally agree with that?
I think it's grounded in facts, largely. I think the main question with all of this, I mean, it's hard to dispute that this has been a very damaging blow dealt to the Iranian regime, and obviously they've been pummeled very heavily with great losses and everything that you enumerated there. The question with all this is the strategic perspective, and you only determine whether you've won a war at the end of it. Victory is only really assessed when all is said and done, and
right.
You've got your outcomes that you started a war for, and they're all in the bag, and you're sure that you've achieved that. And we're not there yet, unfortunately. So
no.
Yeah. So war is sort of paradoxical in this way. You can inflict a lot of damage on your adversary. Like, for example, let's take the Vietnam War, for example. We all know the scale of the bombing that was inflicted on North Vietnam and so on. And so you can really damage your adversary. That doesn't mean that you will win a strategic victory. A lot of those things that were mentioned in the list that you read out were also true in various forms in the campaign in Iraq, against, the first Gulf War against Saddam in the 91, then in the 2003 campaign. They were true in Afghanistan. I mean, Afghanistan was completely occupied and so on. And we know, the outcomes of those confrontations, and, it's hard to present them as victories. So I think we're still, far from declaring victory here, and with any sense of reality to that statement, really.
Here, Trump yesterday in the Oval Office, had this to say about providing Iran this reprieve at this point.
They want to make a deal. We have been speaking to them, but they don't even know who's leading the country. They're in turmoil. So we thought we'd give them a little chance to get some of their turmoil resolved.
It's a little hard to follow the thread there. They want to make a deal, but we don't know who we're talking to. So how do you know who's the they then that wants to make the deal? I mean, it's a little, but the larger point is the chaos. Is it chaos or is it synchronized? Is there real chaos between the cardboard Ayatollah and the IRGC? Is there a struggle for power, or is this are they essentially coordinated and just trying to survive and I guess win the waiting game?
Well, I think we can tell just three things for almost for certain at this point. Number one is that it is in the president's interest to put that narrative out there that there is this chaos, right, and they're all uncoordinated. And the second thing is that no one really knows, certainly not in the public domain. Maybe Israeli intelligence has more information on this. Maybe, I don't know, maybe the CIA or something like that. The intelligence agencies would have a much more accurate picture of what exactly are the dynamics within the regime. But I think it's very hard to, and we haven't really seen any clear evidence of that either way. So there's a lot of speculation of that. And thirdly, we can go by what we actually do see in the public domain, and we see a regime that is resisting internal challenge. We see the IRGC clearly strengthened in the very complex sort of setup of Iranian power balance. So they've been strengthened. I think that's quite clear. So I think we can't sort of be too optimistic on that front without more evidence for it, and just stating that they're in total chaos and they don't know what they're doing and so on. I'm not sure that's a very credible thing to say. And I would just say at this point, something that is very often missing from the entire debate on the war, and I see this, in commentary in the United States, also in Europe, anywhere, is the very significant, I think, foreign element of this war. So the support that Iran is getting from Russia and China. And not just in terms of material support, which again is hard to assess with accuracy, but we have had pretty clear indications, for example, that the Iranians are getting, for example, targeted support, from or using Chinese satellites and so on. And the Russians are sort of sending them their improved models of Iranian drones, right? So if people remember, Iran passed on drone technology to Russia to fight Ukraine, and the Russians, built their own factories in Russia to scale up production of these Iranian-designed drones. but they've also been improving them while fighting Ukraine. So now they're passing on to the Iranians, they're passing back their own improved models. But the point is, so there is material support, but there is also, I think, a very important political and moral support to the regime. So this is not an isolated regime. This is a regime in Iran that knows that it's got two pretty strong, allies, or at least partners in China and Russia, which are
does it? I mean, first of all, it's getting harder to get material support to Iran with the blockade. That's number one. For example, that Chinese cargo ship that was intercepted earlier or the Iranian ship that had component parts from China for chemicals for ballistic missiles that got intercepted, and that was sort of a tell in terms of maybe President Trump's pen pal there, Xi, is not being as forthright as he presents himself to be, which is, of course, is no surprise. But I mean, just the intercepting of that ship and the seizure of those materials speaks to the difficulty of the increased difficulty of getting material support to the Iranians. But in addition to that, you don't think Xi is, particularly with the reliance that China has on Iranian oil, is getting antsy about this thing persisting on? Particularly in advance of the sit down he's got scheduled for Trump in Beijing in Beijing. He's fine to play the long game. I mean, I know he's fine to play the long game in China's perspective, but with respect to the U.S. and Iran, the U.S. and Israel and Iran in this instance.
Well, it's a balance here, right? That each country is trying to strike, each player in this game is trying to strike, and the clock is ticking in various ways for all of them. I think what the Chinese, if we try to put ourselves in their shoes, what they might be looking at is a situation in which the United States has gotten itself, involved in a very tricky war that is damaging, American power influence in the world. Allegedly, obviously, this can all be debated, but I'm saying, how this can be perceived. And it's also consuming, obviously, ammunition stocks and all these things, distracting the United States from other theaters. And it is also, increasing economic pressures on the global economic system, increasing fuel prices, and so on. So all of this is worsening the war. The more we go on. It is also affecting China, I agree, but maybe the Chinese calculate that it might get much worse for America before it gets much worse for China. And also remember, China does have access to Russian oil transfers as well.
Well, right. They had access before that. And and Russia's got their own problems, too. Ukraine has proved a lot more stubborn than Putin, I think, initially thought. I don't think there's any question about that. Okay, before I let you go, I gotta get this piece that you wrote, just because I'm such a fan of Henry. I mean, I'm not a fan of Henry VIII. I'm actually a fan of this musical that was done about Henry VIII's 6 wives, called Six,
right.
which actually started in Chicago before it made its way to Broadway. Just an interesting factoid. It's very good. And I'm one of the few straight men in America who knows Henry VIII's 6 wives in order. So I just want to, give myself that pat on the back. So how Trump is like Henry VIII.
Yeah. This is a piece I wrote a couple of weeks ago. It's a very interesting parallel. I'm not the first one to draw this parallel. So it's been drawn before, but I think, I've sort of presented it in more detail here. And also taking in some of these later developments in Trump's career, including the war in Iran, which actually it's now increasing the parallels with Henry. Basically, I look at how they are similar in many respects on a personal level. So both are, figures which are greater than life, very interested in expensive buildings, expensive furnishings, and all of this. Both created a very strong, centralized government. Both treated their subordinates with, in a pretty demanding and harsh way, with sudden firings. Obviously, in Henry's case, executions.
Yes, no beheadings in the Trump years. Yes.
Yeah, not yet at least, but yeah, we'll see. So there's a lot of stuff on a personal level. One thing that I find quite interesting is how both of them were very interested in sports. So Henry was a great athlete personally. He was jousting, he was doing all these things. The president himself, he in the past he has taken to the wrestling ring. I know for sure.
Yeah, he owned a USFL football team for a minute too.
Exactly. So it's very, I think he's one of the U.S. presidents who has been most engaged with the sports world in general. So that's quite a notable thing that they've got in common.
All right,
the fact that they both. All right.
We're gonna have to leave it there, unfortunately. But I want to at least get the reference to your piece in so people can check it out. I just haven't really seen that comparison before, so I thought it was interesting. Gabriel Lefteroux, co-founder of Astro Analytica. He serves as a senior fellow for space power at the Council on Geostrategy in London as well. Gabriel, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line. It is now 7 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
No rush for peace. Gianna Gelosi, Fox News. President Trump says he's not going to be pressured into making a fast deal with Iran.
With a ceasefire in place indefinitely, President Trump says he's in no rush to permanently end the conflict with Iran or force a bad deal.
I don't want to rush it. I want to take my time. We have plenty of time, and I want to get a great deal. I want to get a deal where our nation and the world is safe.
That deal, he says, must be everlasting, ending any chance of Iran acquiring a nuclear weapon. Still, with the Strait of Hormuz closed and a U.S. naval blockade of Iran enforced, President Trump concedes Americans will pay higher gas prices for a little while. At the White House, Jared Halpern, Fox News.
Meanwhile, CENTCOM says the U.S. Navy now has 3 aircraft carriers in the Middle East. The USS George H.W. Bush carrier arrived in the Indian Ocean. This is the first time 3 aircraft carriers have been in the region since 2003, leading up to the Iraq invasion. Meantime, a new Fox News poll asked voters how they feel about the ongoing conflict in Iran.
Support for the war in Iran has grown to 45% now, from 42% in March. Has the action made America safer? 36% say yes, while 39% say it has made America less safe. A majority of voters, 57%, say they don't believe the effort to keep America safe justifies the pain of higher prices here at home, while 43% say the rising cost will be worth it in the long run. When it comes to Israel, 40% say the U.S. is too supportive. Another 40% think the support is just about right. 19% think the U.S. could do more for Israel. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
And President Trump says Israel and Lebanon have agreed to extend a ceasefire by 3 weeks, as Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced he had prostate cancer that responded to treatment. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 65 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. The former owner of the Home Alone house in suburban Chicago has been found dead amid child pornography charges. Fox's Jeff Manasso reports.
Investigators in Lake County say 79-year-old John Abenshine was found dead at a nature preserve Wednesday in what they're calling an isolated case with no threat to the community. Abenshine owned the Winnetka home featured in the movie Home Alone, telling Fox News just months ago.
I went from that tinge of excitement during the filming to, kind of, dear God, make it stop after the onslaught of visitors.
Ebenshine's death amid felony charges and a warrant search of his new home after investigators say cyber tips indicating an online account tied to Abenshine had been used in the possession, manufacture, and distribution of child porn. In Chicago, Jeff Manasso, Fox News.
A man charged in connection with the death of Chicago police officer Crystal Rivera last year, is pleading guilty. Jalen Arnold was sentenced to 8 years in prison after entering a guilty plea for felony possession of a weapon. Authorities say Rivera died after she was accidentally shot by another officer last June. The two officers were chasing Arnold at the time of the shooting. A second man has been charged. He's due in court next month. Work on the new Concourse D at O'Hare International Airport is reaching a major milestone. City leaders were on hand yesterday for the start of vertical construction on the project. The 19-gate expansion of the world's busiest airfield is expected to be completed in late 2028. The city broke ground on the project last August, and around 35% of the foundational work is now complete. This report is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560, The Answer.
For over a decade, AM 560 has marked the start of summer with a night of cigar smoking and great conversation. And this year, we're proud to welcome the editor-in-chief of Breitbart News to Cigar Night. He's Alex Marlowe, and he'll join AM 560's Dan Proft and Sean Thompson on Tuesday, May 19th at Gobert's Farm in Pingree Grove for a night you won't forget. Tickets are on sale now at 560theanswer.com/cigar. That's 560theanswer.com/cigar. Sponsored by Donnelly Auctions.
Penny Mustard is proud to introduce the latest innovation in home furnishings, presenting the single-seat mini sofa.
What are you talking about?
Look right there.
That's not a single-seat sofa.
It has fabric, doesn't it?
Yes.
And it's plush, right?
Sure.
And you sit on it.
Obviously.
So you tell me what that is.
It's Penny Mustard's new line of upholstered dining chairs.
Huh?
It's like something you'd see in a fancy 5-star restaurant.
But they don't look like dining chairs.
Precisely. These unique chairs take your dining experience to a whole new level.
Our upholstered dining chairs are functional, comfortable, and oh so stylish.
They are, without a doubt, the finest dining chairs masquerading as single-seat mini sofas you'll ever see.
Can't argue with that.
The new upholstered dining chair collection, American-made with solid wood and your choice of fabric or leather, starting at $9.16 at Penny Mustard.
6 Chicagoland showrooms.
PennyMustard.com.
Better versions of what people want.
Penny Mustard Furnishing.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term. Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
I didn't switch to Pure Talk just because I wanted to save 50% off the same 5G service I'd been paying twice as much for. I switched because I like the idea of being in business with a wireless company that supports our veterans in a meaningful way. Pure Talk also creates American jobs every day by keeping their entire operation in this country. I appreciate that. If you feel the same, dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Are you prepared for the Illinois estate tax? If your estate is worth over $4 million, your heirs could face a tax bill of up to 16% when you pass. Financial advisor Scott Tucker and the team at Scott Tucker Solutions can show you ways to potentially reduce or even eliminate that burden. One strategy is to start gifting assets during your lifetime to lower the taxable value of your estate. Another option is setting up irrevocable trusts, which can shield wealth from estate taxes. Charitable donations and life insurance policies can also be smart tools to offset tax liabilities. Call Scott Tucker and the Scott Tucker Solutions team now, 847-474-3888, or go to 560retirement.com. That's 847-474-3888, or go to 560retirement.com. Investment advisory services made available through AE Wealth Management, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hackberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. We got some problems on the Dan Ryan. We're stop and go in the local lanes inbound between 47th Street and 18th Street with a stall taking out the right lane. And then on the outbound side at 95th Street, there's an accident. The right lane is blocked. So we're looking at 25 in, 20 out from 95th to the Burn interchange. But now in the express lanes, outbound at 33rd Street, you have another crash, and this time the right lane is blocked. You're still in great shape on the Edens, just 15 15 minutes both ways from Lake Cook to Montrose. 30 in, 27 out on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Burn interchange. The Ike inbound from Wolf to the Old Post Office is 25 minutes, 17 on the reverse side. And on the Stevenson, it's 36 minutes inbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. Outbound is 28. News and Traffic is a service of American Beam and Steel, structural repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The temperature will reach a high of 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here, and boy, the euphoria, well, I mean, it's a little early, it's just the first round pick, but the euphoria over the Bears' first round pick, this cornerback from Oregon by way of Purdue, combined with the great season that was last year, and the draft has you thinking about football and the Bears, it could be dampened, the enthusiasm, if what the mayor of Hammond has suggested turns out to be true, which is we know an announcement is coming sometime in the early summer. And despite the General Assembly starting to move in the direction of a package the Bears could find attractive, what passed out of the House, as we discussed a bit earlier in the program, on Wednesday this week, the Bears characterized as a good first step, but more amendments are required on the Senate side before it gets to Pritzker's desk, before it's something that they would support. And frankly, a lot of this is going to be reading of tea leaves, Pritzker's reading of tea leaves in terms of where the public comes down once the details of any deal are actually in greater circulation than they are at present. But the mayor of Hammond believes this is a done deal and the Bears are going to Hammond. That's going to be a real disappointment to those Arlington Heights residents that are being interviewed again by the local network affiliates to try to generate enthusiasm for Arlington Heights as the selected location. John Garcia reporting for ABC7.
Sources say it strays from the agreement that was already negotiated with the Bears. The House bill would put the Bears' payment in a fund for property tax relief for homeowners, and it fails to address a source of funding for infrastructure improvements that would be needed for the new stadium.
We're hoping that they see this as progress, that the legislature and the people in Illinois are doing everything we can to make it work.
Arlington Heights Mayor Jim Tenaglia issued a statement saying, in part, now that the bill passed the House, we're one step closer to working towards a world-class site concept that is a win for our community, the team, and the region as a whole.
Well, the Arlington Heights mayor might be in for some bad news, according to the Hammond, Indiana mayor. And by the way, the Chamber of Commerce guy you heard from there, the General Assembly is doing everything it can to make this a world-class deal or whatever. Yeah, everything it can except make Illinois a financially solvent, economically stable, from a policy perspective, environment such that you wouldn't have to do these carve-out deals to keep big businesses from Citadel to the Chicago Bears in town. But I digress. The mayor of Hammond, Indiana is Thomas McDermott Jr. He joins us now. Mayor, thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Dan. Thanks for the invite.
So I know Bears brass were out there touring the site recently, and their reaction to what you have set up there in Hammond was what?
I mean, it was a real positive meeting for 5 hours. Can you hear me okay? Am I going?
Yeah, I can hear you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. It was a 5-hour meeting. Lost Marsh was beautiful that day. It was a lot of due diligence. Hundreds of items that need to be completed if the Bears are going to move to the Lost Marsh area. So it was a real positive meeting. George McCaskey was there, Kevin Moore was there, along with the entire team, meaning the senior leadership team. It was a real positive meeting, I thought.
It's interesting because unlike the Bears talking about what the General Assembly in Illinois is kicking around, saying, some progress, but more needs to be done, I haven't heard them say the same thing about the package from a legislative perspective with the sports authority that was set up in Indiana, the bonding authority. I haven't seen them say that about Indiana, in the sense that I haven't heard them say that's a good start, but there needs to be more done. It seems like they're content in terms of what's been done legislatively in Indiana, and now it's a question of the site itself. Is that fair?
I agree with you. And I know there was some concern that maybe there are some issues that had to be worked out on the site, and I think that a lot of those issues are clearing themselves up through the due diligence period. So, I want you to know this area. We cleaned this area up. The city of Hammond cleaned this area up right before I took over as mayor 22 years ago. And so we know that the area is nice and clean, but the Bears don't know what we know. And now the Bears probably know a lot more about that area than even the city officials do.
Yeah, I talked to a couple lobbyist friends in Illinois, and one of the things they said about Arlington Heights, Arlington Park versus Hammond is, at the end of the day, the Arlington Heights property is just going to throw off more revenue. In other words, the size and what you can do on the Arlington Park property is just more advantageous to building a Bearsville than is the Lost Marsh property in Hammond. And so at the end of the day, as long as it's not confiscatory from a tax perspective, the Bears stand to make a lot more money with what they can do on the Arlington Park property versus the Hammond property. What do you say to that?
I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I mean, maybe when you look at the top line, at the gross revenue, maybe that's true. But after taxes and after the cost of doing business in Illinois, what does the bottom line say? Because I do know that if the Bears choose Indiana and Hammond, if the Bears do that, they're going to save over the life of this deal probably a few $2 billion in taxes alone. So when you take that into consideration, I'm not sure if that's true or not, to be honest with you.
And yeah, part of it depends on which retail you attract where, and so on, hotels and so on and so forth. So I think it's somewhat it's modeling. That's probably fair. But to be clear, what you're talking about in Lost Marsh is the same thing as what is being discussed in Arlington Heights, which is like a Bearsville, something like Wrigleyville for the Bears.
Absolutely. That's exactly what I'm pretty sure that's what the Bears are interested in. And I've been using that same term myself, calling that entire area Bearsville, talking to the team saying, this is your area. You tell us what you want and we're going to make it happen. It's about 350 acres of blank canvas that the Bears could do whatever they want with. And I think they like, that's what they want. They want control. And I've heard multiple mentions about the area around Wrigley Field. And I know I'm a Cubs fan, so I go to Wrigley, 20 times a season. And I know that George McCaskey is also a Cubs fan. So I think there's a lot of interest in remodeling what the Cubs have done.
Have you gotten any inquiries like for property listings in Northwest Indiana from Caleb Williams, for example? Any other tells that you have?
Well, my house is for sale if he wants it. No,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah.
I think we're still pretty. I've been talking to leaders of Northwest Indiana, especially people along the lakefront, saying this isn't a stretch to think that Caleb Williams may be driving down your street, going to his house in Long Beach, right on Lake Michigan. I mean, there are potentials for that kind of stuff to happen down the road, but right now we're so early in the process, it's hard to speculate like that.
I mean, maybe if you sweeten the pot with, a few memberships to Crooked Stick,
We do have some good golf courses out here. So.
Yeah, and it's funny because I speaking of that, I talked to some friends that I play golf with that are out that way in Carmel and Indy and that stuff, and I think they believe it's a real possibility now, and I was a little skeptical until I talked to Governor Braun a few weeks back, and he's saying, "Look, I've been in business, I've been successful. I know when I'm being just used as leverage, and that's not this. So he said, we may not get it, but like this is a real option for the Bears, and they're treating it as a real option, which I thought, yeah, it sounds like that's what's happening. But there's still a lot of.
I totally agree. I totally agree with the governor, by the way. And we went through this whole, are we being used? And I agree with Governor Braun totally in that regard.
And who is your point person been in terms of these discussions? Is it Kevin Warren?
Well, I'm going through Jim McGough, who is one of the governor's top people. He serves on the Indiana Finance Authority.
No, I meant for the Bears. I meant for the Bears.
Well,
who are you?
I'm not directly negotiating on behalf of the state of Indiana, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And we're working with Kevin Warren and his team. But I go through Jim McGough because mayors can't pull this deal off by themselves. We need the state government involved. So, and Governor Braun, quite frankly, is being a champion for Indiana in this regard. He put politics aside because I'm a big Democrat in the state. I ran for U.S. Senate over here, and Governor Braun, obviously the top Republican, and he never even let that enter his mind. He jumped on board with this. Him and I are working together, and I just, it's a real contrast to what's going on in Washington, D.C., what Governor Braun's doing here in Indiana.
Yeah, well, I mean, this would be, even, we can argue what public, even partial public financing of stadiums look like in terms of return on investment for taxpayers. Actually, the evidence is pretty overwhelming in one direction, and it's not positive. But this would be a coup for Indiana, even just psychically. And because Indiana is a well-run state and a fiscally stable one, you have the ability to do things maybe you wouldn't otherwise be able to do, like this.
Absolutely. I mean, we'd be one of the few states with 2 NFL teams if this happens. And I've heard a lot of the studies you're talking about, and I don't necessarily agree with all of them. I think that if you're talking about Chicago bringing another team or losing a team from Chicago, what kind of impact would that be on Chicago? Maybe it's minimal because Chicago's so spectacular. But if you move an NFL team to a city like Hammond, I think the benefits are going to far outweigh any negatives that we have because we want some of the amenities that Chicago has, and I think this will help make it happen.
Did you? I mean, I don't know that it was done yet, so I can't remember if I raised this with Governor Braun. But I mean, are you getting any pushback from residents who say, why are we going to be underwriting this stadium for a bunch of, for billionaires from Chicago to bring their team here? I mean, we're getting some of that in Chicagoland about the Bears in Arlington Heights. I'm just curious and this sort of these are the sorts of issues that do sort of blur the partisan boundaries. So I just wonder if you're getting any pushback from taxpayers about their money being on the line here.
Not as much as you'd think. I'm getting more pushback from environmentalists that are worried about the future of that area because it's a real green area of our city. So I'm getting more pushback on the environmental front as opposed to the stadium financing because, quite frankly, that's not really – my decision isn't really the stadium financing. That's coming from downstate. So my decision locally is we're going to repurpose this 350 acres, and I think that's some of the pushback I'm getting more locally.
And again, I mean, I started this at the outset, but the reporting on this, and maybe this is a mischaracterization of your words, but the reporting on this has been that you think that the decision has been made and has been made for a while, and Indiana is where the Bears are going. You're confident.
No, I mean, that is a mischaracterization. I wish I was that confident. And,
okay.
Funny thing. But I'm confident that it's the best deal. But I know I think if the Bears don't choose Indiana, it's not because Illinois made a better deal. It's because of the psychological impact of moving out of Illinois and moving to Indiana. I've been saying that the only thing keeping the Bears in Illinois right now is nostalgia, and I still feel that way. I'm confident in the deal we put forward. I think it's a great deal for the Bears. I think the Bears are going to save a lot of money over the life of the deal, but only the Bears know if that's good enough, because it's in the Bears fight song. It's the pride and joy of Illinois. I mean, we're fighting nostalgia. Yes. We're fighting history. I mean, we're going to have to change the fight song if they move.
We're just going to have to delete that word. You're going to have to, the pride and joy of the Midwest. We got Indiana, Midwest. We're getting, boy.
Chicagoland area.
Yeah, but that doesn't quite have the same rhythm. You're right. We're going to have to workshop that. I forgot that. That's a problem. Now, would you
I was at the playoff game this year, and that hit me when we were singing after a touchdown. I'm like, man, we got to change the fight song if they move.
Oh boy! Well, yeah, boy, that classic interstate rivalry between the Colts and the Bears.
Yeah.
You're that's gonna need 100 years to sort of develop. But would you sweeten the pot by also taking the Bulls? Maybe that could.
Listen. Yeah, I've been getting, it's funny is if a lot of people are like, hey, if this falls apart, can you go after the White Sox? And now I know the White Sox are looking to build more on the south side of Chicago, more downtown. So, but, Indiana is a well-run state. You mentioned that earlier. The Bears will save a lot of money if they choose Indiana. But, I wish I was as confident as a lot of the people are making my words sound. I'm
fair enough.
I'm hanging on every day, just like everybody else, hoping that the Bears make the right decision. So,
all right. Well, good luck to you, Mayor of Hammond, Indiana, Thomas McDermott Jr. Mayor McDermott, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan. It's a pleasure. Take care.
Take care. And he joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you know most remodeling mishaps start before construction even begins? Here's something else you should know. At Forever Remodeling, we do things differently. Every kitchen, bathroom, and basement project starts with smart planning, detailed 3D designs, a clear scope of work, and accurate pricing, all sorted out before you get started. No surprises, no stress, just beautiful results. Done right the first time. Visit foreverremodeling.com. That's the number 4, EVER, remodeling.com. And schedule your free in-home consultation today.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Signature Bank is Chicago's fastest growing independently owned business bank, a bank where relationships still matter. Signature Bank knows your name and your story. I'm Dan Proft, and I know this because Signature Bank is my business bank.
I'm Scott Bartmus, co-founder of ESCO, a security and fire alarm services business and a customer of Signature Bank. We work hard to give our customers peace of mind, so it's nice to know that while we have our customers' backs, partners like Signature Bank have ours. When COVID hit, there was a lot of uncertainty for many businesses, particularly surrounding the PPP loan program, with parameters and deadlines changing constantly. The executives from Signature Bank worked weekends alongside their staff, filling out and submitting applications to ensure they took care of us. That type of dedication is hard to find, but we found it with Signature Bank.
Signature Bank helps local businesses succeed. Want to learn how Signature Bank can help turn your business vision into reality? Call Signature Bank at 773-467-5600 or visit signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-575-6745. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. There is zero risk to you. If we can't reduce your tax debt, then you pay nothing. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have a 5-star rating on Google and Yelp and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-575-6745. That's 800-575-6745. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
Lots of places can expose you to identity theft, but that's why LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points a second for threats to your identity, which is way more than anyone can do on their own. If they find anything suspicious, like new loans or changes in your financial accounts, they'll alert you right away, all through text, phone, email, or the LifeLock app. Get the alerts that can make all the difference. Save up to 40% off your first year with the promo code BECK. LifeLock.com, 800-LifeLock, 1-800-LifeLock, or LifeLock.com. Use the promo code BECK at LifeLock.com.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
This is Sean Thompson. One of the things I remember about spring is listening to my grandfather walk around and say, opening day. It's just around the corner. He used to think those were the two sweetest words you could say during springtime because he was a big baseball fan. And for most people, that's the case. It's one of the greatest American traditions each spring. But there's another great American tradition that isn't far off, and that's called Tax Day. Well, opening day and tax day show up around the same time each year. We don't look at them in the same way. Well, you're optimistic about your favorite team. When's the last time you felt optimistic about stroking a big check to Uncle Sam? It doesn't have to be that way, and all you have to do is call Tom Fortino, the people at Alpha Wealth Group, who believe that baseball is a seasonal game, but tax planning goes on year-round. So if you don't want to write a big check in your retirement, and you don't want to have your Social Security or Medicare premiums affected by it, call Tom Fortino and the people at Alpha Wealth Group for their complimentary retirement roadmap. Call them at 630-864-6711. That number again is 630-864-6711 or online at alphawealthgroup.com.
This Mother's Day, give Mom something that shines as bright as she does. Hi, it's Mike Gallagher. Roland's Jewelers is the perfect place for a gift to make Mother's Day unforgettable. Roland's has such a beautiful selection of jewelry, and I'm a long-time customer of Roland's. I love this place, and I want you to make Mom feel truly special with a stunning Simon G necklace, a Roberto coin bracelet to match her style, or sparkling diamond stud earrings. I love that Roland's is family-owned, and I appreciate their expertly trained sales specialist. Roland's will help you find that perfect gift because Mom deserves jewelry she'll cherish forever. Visit Roland's Jewelers, downtown Libertyville, or RolandsJewelers.com. That's ROLLANDS, RolandsJewelers.com. Roland's Jewelers, a family-owned jeweler you can trust this Mother's Day, like I do. RolandsJewelers.com, or call them 847-918-7300, 847-918-7300, Roland's Jewelers.
What happens when feelings replace morality? If right and wrong are just personal opinions, then who decides why violence, theft, or chaos are wrong? In his new book, If There Is No God, Dennis Prager tackles the biggest questions of good, evil, suffering, and justice, offering clear arguments for anyone searching for moral clarity in a troubled age. If There Is No God by Dennis Prager. Available now at PragerStore.com. That's PragerStore.com. AM 560, The Answer.
All right, we got a couple of suggestions texted in for how to change the Bears fight song. It may not be as difficult as Mayor McDermott and I were making it out to be. One is just were, and the other is from. Let's see how it's. Bear down, Chicago Bears, make every play, clear the way to victory. Bear down, Chicago Bears, put up a fight with might so fearlessly. We'll never forget the way you thrilled the nation with your T formation. Bear down, Chicago Bears, and let them know while you're wearing the crown, you were the pride and joy of Illinois. You were the pride of, you're the pride of Illinois. You were the pride of, or you're the pride and joy from Illinois. See? I think either one of those work, actually. It's not bad. Chicago Bears, bear down. Coming up at 7:37, Stephen Moore, all things economic, including whether or not the federal government should bail out Spirit Airlines. No, but we'll get Stephen Moore's opinion at 7:37. Now we check the headlines.
Good morning. It is 66 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Keene in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A man is in serious condition after being stabbed last night while he was walking near Buckingham Fountain in the Loop. Police say the 23-year-old male victim was walking with a 27-year-old female when they were approached by the suspect. A verbal fight began, which escalated when the suspect stabbed the victim in the neck before fleeing the scene. The victim was taken to a local hospital where he was listed in serious condition. A Mexican national who resided in Palatine has been indicted for allegedly re-entering the United States illegally after a deportation. Government attorneys say 30-year-old Hector Daniel Gamboa Montalvo was removed from the U.S. in July of 2020, arrested in Palatine in 2023, and convicted of vehicular hijacking, and then convicted of possessing a dangerous weapon in Cook County Jail. Gamboa Montalvo has been ordered into federal custody and has a status hearing set for May 27th. News is a service of American Beam and Steel Structural Repair licensed contractors for your home and business. Search for American Beam and Steel online to schedule your consultation directly with the owner, Mark. American Beam and Steel. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes on AM 560 The Answer.
Scott Jennings doesn't see the president bending.
There is no way that they're going to get, they still want it, and they made that clear the other night. Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
This is his red line, his most important goal, to stop the avowed enemy of the United States, run by religious fanatics who chant death to America, from acquiring nuclear weapons.
The Scott Jennings Show, weekdays at noon, right before Hugh Hewitt at 2 on AM 560. The Answer.
I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. If you're a business owner with unfiled tax returns, tax season is not your friend. This is when the IRS turns up the heat. They match 1099s. They review payroll filings. They compare bank deposits. And when returns are missing, they don't send you a warning. They take action. Penalties stack up fast. Liens become public. Bank levies can drain your account. I see it every year. Good business owners who waited too long, not because they're crooks, but because they were overwhelmed. Let me be clear, hiding makes it worse. Action makes it fixable. I help business owners get compliant, file what's missing, and negotiate from a position of strength, not fear. Don't wait for the next certified letter. Don't wait for a levy. Go to fightbacknow.com and sign up for my daily email. I'll tell you exactly what to do next, step by step. Or call me right now at 312-664-6649. Act now before the IRS acts first.
At Signature Bank, going the distance for business banking customers is what we do every day. We understand that business owners have a strategic mission, a drive to succeed, a plan for growth, and don't have time to wait for a bank to respond. With Signature Bank, you not only have a banking partner that has roots right here in Chicago, but our decisions are made locally too. Signature Bank knows that when you have a question or problem about your business, you want answers. You need someone who will pick up the phone or respond to your text. You need someone who is always there for you. That's Signature Bank. We are a team that wants to get to know you and your business. Want to be Signature Bank's next success story? Give us a call today at 773-467-5630 or visit us online at signaturebank.bank. Member FDIC Equal Housing Lender.
Wesley Financial Group is not a law firm.
Ask yourself this question. Is it really worth holding on to that timeshare that you know you need to get rid of? Here's the truth. The average maintenance fee just went up over 17%. That could have been 117%, and there's nothing you can do about it. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check for annual maintenance and assessment fees. I'm Chuck McDowell, founder of Wesley Financial Group. For 15 years, I've helped over 50,000 families cancel their timeshare. Not sell it, not transfer it, cancel it. Did you buy a timeshare because they told you it was a great investment and your maintenance fees would never go up? That's a lie. Are you ready to get rid of your timeshare once and for all? Simply call us and I'll send you our timeshare exit kit that explains all your options for cancellation.
Call Wesley now for your timeshare exit kit. 800-366-6161. That's 800-366-6161. 800-366-6161.
Epic parties start at Staples. Now you can grab Party City balloons, decorations, and tableware, plus matching custom invites, banners, and more right at Staples. That was easy.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hochberg Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Still not too bad on the Edens. It's about 16 minutes both ways from Lake Hook to Montrose. Getting slow on the Kennedy. Inbound is 34 minutes from O'Hare to the Burnt Interchange. 32 on the reverse side. 32 in, 18 out on the Ike from Wolf to the old post office. And the Stevenson is 37 minutes inbound from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. You've got 26 minutes on the outbound side. Doing much better on the Dan Ryan. It's 25 minutes inbound from 95th to the Bird Interchange outbound is 12, still slow in the express lanes inbound between 63rd Street and the Stevenson. And watch out for a broken down truck in Stony Island Feeder on Stony Island Avenue northbound right at 95th Street. Delays go all the way back to the Bishop Ford. This report is a service of Summit Racing Equipment. It's Car Care Month, and Summit Racing has what you need for bumper-to-bumper care. Revive your interior, exterior, underhood, and more. Shop summitracing.com. Use promo code RADIO for $10 off an order of $100 or more. Exclusions apply. Offer ends May 3rd, 2026. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Ride Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The high will reach 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
This hourly segment is brought to you by In the Know with Craig Bolanos, powered by VestGen Wealth Partners, Sunday morning at 10 on AM 560 The Answer.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. Only the biggest stories, only the biggest guests, and only the biggest opinions. This is AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. I didn't like it when he did it with Intel, and I don't like what he's contemplating doing with Spirit Airlines. President Trump blurring the lines between the public and the private. In other words, the government should not attempt to operate like a private equity fund. And so I think the path he's contemplating with Spirit Airlines, as he described yesterday in Q&A with the D.C. gaggle, is a injudicious one.
Is the government going to buy a stake in Spirit Airlines?
So Spirit is an airline that's had some trouble. They were going to merge with People Express, or one of them, a number of years ago, and Barack Hussein Obama decided it was a bad idea. How did that work out? It's bad for both of them. That would have been a natural merger. Not United and American, but Spirit and the other. We're looking at helping them. We have 18,000 people that live in this country that are great people and great employees, and we're thinking about doing it, helping them out, and meaning bailing them out or buying it. I think we just buy it. We'd be getting it virtually debt-free. They have some good aircraft, they have good assets, and when the price of oil goes down, we'll sell it for a profit. I'd love to be able to save those jobs. I'd love to be able to save an airline. I like having a lot of airlines, so it's competitive. So we are looking at Spirit. It's in a bankruptcy. It's in bankruptcy court, and we're looking if we could get it for the right price. I'd do it to save the jobs, and we have somebody that wants to run it, do a good job, smart person. And if they run it properly, and if prices come down, all of a sudden it's a valuable asset. And they have some very good slots.
Yeah, I remember Terry McAuliffe pitching the same line of bull jive about Solyndra. For more on this and other matters economic, please be joined by Stephen Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle and the Plan to Unleash Prosperity Again, co-authored with Art Laffer. What would Art Laffer think of this? The same thing I do, the same thing Steve Moore does, I'm sure, Steve.
Good morning. Well, you're saying you don't want an Amtrak of the skies?
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's good. I like that branding.
It really works well.
Yeah.
Look, this is obviously everything you said is correct. We don't want the government running industries. We don't want corporate welfare, and we don't want federal money going to private companies. And so, but there is a bit of an asterisk here, and Trump didn't have the story exactly right in that little segment you played from him. So basically, the real villain there's two villains, the guys I call the killer bees, Biden, and remember Pete Buttigieg? Remember him?
Sure. Yes.
He was the transportation secretary.
Yes.
for Biden, and he had two very good qualifications. One was he rode his bike to work allegedly,
Yes.
and the other is he's gay, and that made him very qualified to run the nation's transportation system.
Yep.
And so anyway, one of his major decisions was that the reason that Spirit is in bankruptcy today is that 3 years ago, Spirit was going to merge not with People's, it was going to be merged with JetBlue, right?
Yeah.
And so at that time, JetBlue was the fifth largest carrier. So you've got basically American, United, Delta, Southwest were the big four, right? And then you had the fifth largest was JetBlue, and the sixth largest was Spirit. And so if Spirit and JetBlue had combined, they would. Are you ready? Are you sitting down, Dan? They would have had a whole 9% of the market.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And so these idiots, lunatics, crazy people in the Biden administration, they blocked the merger. They said, no, you're going to be a monopoly with 9%.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's laughable. Right?
Yeah.
And so instead of, and by the way, this would have enhanced competition because instead of the big four, now you would have had a fifth major competitor in the market. So it would have actually, brought down prices. But these idiots love to regulate, so they basically canceled the merger, and therefore you've got a company now that is in bankruptcy with 18,000 jobs that are going to be lost. Thank you, Joe Biden. Thank you, Pete Buttigieg. So now,
although not all those jobs are going to be lost. I mean, they're bankruptcy. They're going to reorganize,
of course, the assets will be bought up by other airlines, and some of those workers will go work for the. But the point is, this is going to make American, United, Delta, and Southwest even stronger, which is ironic because the reason that they blocked the merger was to try to reduce concentration in the industry.
Right.
So they let me put it like this: the shareholders of Spirit and the workers have a case that we got screwed by the government, and they did. They did get screwed by the Biden administration. Now, that does not justify. That certainly does not justify a federal takeover. So I just wanted to make that clear. But, look, it worked with Solyndra, and it worked with solar energy, and it worked with Amtrak. And look at the Postal Service. Look how efficient they are. So having the government run an institution like this is going to be fine, Dan.
The only way I could even conceive that the flying experience in Spirit Airlines would be worse than it is currently is if the government owned it.
Well, but Trump is actually talking about the government not just taking a stake in it, but taking over possibly ownership of the and then selling.
Yeah.
It. Who knows exactly what he means? And look, I'm very pro-Trump. I like the guy, but on this kind of thing, I think it's a bridge too far.
I got some good news to report. I don't get to do that too much. I mean, it's modest good news. It's like another catastrophe that was about to happen hasn't happened yet. That's what constitutes good news in Illinois, which is the millionaire surcharge that the neo-Marxists in the Illinois General Assembly are trying to get through has stalled in the House for now. They're not done yet, but it's stalled for now.
Did they want to raise the tax by?
I think
5% was it?
I think it was. I think it's a 3% kicker on top of the 4.95.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but you got to catch up with the other blue states. I mean, they're at 9 and 10 and 12, and 14%. Maine just raised their income. I mean, it's a race to the. I don't know if I should call it the race to the bottom or the top. But they're in a race to see who can squash the risk the most. And of course, they're not in New York and California and Illinois and Maine anymore.
Well,
they don't live there anymore. But it is. I was just writing a column on this. They can't stop themselves. They're so these blue states and cities are so run by radicals that even though a lot of them will even admit that this is going to lead to a lot of people leaving, they still will do it. They don't care.
Well, there's no
symbolism.
No question, and you want to play the boogeyman game with I don't know, somebody like Ken Griffin. You better be careful. Of course. Zora.
By the way, did you see that he may not? He's
exactly.
Cancel this $10 billion. I forget the price tag, but it's $1 billion. And say maybe we won't build that in downtown Manhattan. Maybe we'll build it in maybe Miami.
Well, just to refresh people's recollection, Mamdani specifically targeted Ken Griffin in his video. Calling for this pied-à-terre tax.
The video where he looked like the Joker in the Batman movie, he's staring right in the camera. I mean, it was that kind of freaky.
Yeah, here's what he said.
When I ran for mayor, I said I was going to tax the rich. Well, today, we're taxing the rich. I'm thrilled to announce we've secured a pied-à-terre
So
tax.
excited about
the
it.
first in New York's history. This is an annual fee on luxury properties worth more than $5 million, whose owners do not live full-time in the city. Like for this penthouse, which hedge fund CEO Ken Griffin bought for $238 million. This pied-à-terre tax is specifically designed for the richest of the rich, those who store their wealth in New York City real estate but who don't actually live here. But even so, they're able to reap the huge financial rewards of owning property in, dare I say, the greatest city in the world. And most of the time, these units are sitting empty, since again, they don't actually live here. This is a fundamentally unfair system that hurts working New Yorkers. Now, it's coming to an end. This tax will raise at least $500 million directly for the city. It'll help fund things like free childcare, cleaner streets, and safer neighborhoods. As mayor, I believe everyone has a role to play in contributing to our city, and some a little bit more than others. Happy tax day, New York.
Well, yeah. So
you have an.
Well, wait. So here's Ken Griffin's response. Ken Griffin, well, through his chief operating officer, Gerald Beeson. We're about to commence the redevelopment of 350 Park Avenue, creating 6,000 highly paid construction jobs and supporting the creation of more than 15,000 permanent jobs in Midtown New York. The project, if we move forward, will entail more than $6 billion of spending. Right. The emphasis on if we move forward, Steve.
Exactly. I mean, as I said, they may end up building that building in Miami. I don't know if you've been to Miami lately, but my God, it does look like the skyline looks like New York now, city. So, look, I mean, these people are getting crazier and crazier. Pretty soon, they're going to be hanging these rich people in the town square.
Well, it's funny you say that because this podcast, this New York Times podcast that and the topic that has gotten a lot of attention. It features this gruesome person, Hassan Piker, who is apparently.
I think I did see this.
Yes. Yeah. A cause celeb on the for young neo-Marxists apparently, yes. And it's the rich. The topic. The rich don't play by the rules, so why should we?
Steal from the rich. Steal from them.
Steal from the rich. Yeah. Number one. Right. And also assassinate people that you decree as guilty of social murder, like the United Healthcare CEO.
Wow, I mean that's pretty frightening, and that's how this kind of anti-rich movement has escalated. By the way, I think I heard the story before, but when Ken Griffin was in Chicago, and the city finally drove him away. Not only did he take all the jobs with him, and not only did he take the tax revenue with him, but he was you know this, Dan, because we've talked about it before. He was the single largest contributor to charities in the entire state of Illinois. And so now the charities are like, what happened to all that Ken Griffin money, for the homeless shelters and for the museums and the opera and all that money? No, he doesn't live here anymore. You drove him away, remember?
Yeah. And it's interesting, too, about this whole, Eat the Rich. I mean, that was a P.J. O'Rourke novel that was a parody. Now it's literally the policy position of the left. But what's interesting, too, is and Megan McArdle made this point after this comment from Jill Filipovic, who's a leftist. She basically said, Jill and I used to have, the difference between Jill and I used to be a right-left difference. Now it's a normie. Now we're on the same side because it's normie versus crazy. Jill Filipovic writes about the Rich Don't Play by the Rules, So Why Should I podcast. This is her words, a woman of the left. The whole interview just makes me incredibly sad. It's a total breakdown of any moral code, sense of personal integrity, commitment to public good. Like, what the blank? You would steal priceless works of art from the public in order to enrich yourself because socialism. She really goes after this from a left perspective, which is, I guess, something to grab onto.
Well, that's right. And, one of the projects that we've been working on liberate Cuba. By the way, do you remember when, this was probably 15, 20 years ago, when all the journalists went to Cuba and look at the great health care they have in Cuba.
Oh, yes.
Look how
Hassan Piker was one of them. Yeah, Hassan Piker and Code Pink. I mean, they were on that Cuba's in the dark, and they're singing the praises of Cuba.
Exactly. So my point is that here, if we liberate Cuba, and I think Trump, and I'm not talking about a military invasion. I'm not talking about a Bay of Pigs, but just make Castro an offer he can't refuse. I mean, that country would go from being desperately poor within a generation to be one of the richest countries in the world. So why did they embrace these idiotic ideas? The people who are hurt the most in Cuba are exactly the poor people who are supposed to benefit from socialism. They're the people whose lights don't come on. They're the people who barely have enough to eat. So where does it work? I don't know. They always talk about Sweden, but even Sweden's turning away from socialism now. The only place that's turning towards socialism are the blue cities of America.
Yeah, exactly. I want you to hear Hassan Piker and his two collaborators on this New York Times podcast. Just because you haven't heard it, you should hear it.
Listen to this; it makes me cringe when I. Hear
I know, but
you
should hear it, and we played it yesterday and talked about it. But people should hear it again. You can't hear it too much. This is a guy who has 1 million plus followers on his ridiculous, profane, idiotic. Streaming show. Take a listen.
Yeah, no, I'm pro piracy all the way. Like across the board. Would you pirate a car? Yes. If you could. If one could pirate
a car.
It was just a classic thing back in the day. The government funded anti-piracy initiatives would be like, dude, would you steal a car? I'm like, yeah, sure. If I could get away with it, if it was as easy as pirating IP, I would do it. Yeah.
Would you dine and dash from your local diner?
Never. Except 35%. Mike's, come on.
No, I wouldn't do that. And if I saw somebody doing that, I'd probably pay for their meal.
Yeah. Would you steal a book from the library?
Never.
No.
Would you steal from the Louvre?
Yes.
I would not be logistically capable of executing such a fact, but would I cheer on every news story of people that I see doing it? Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's cool. We gotta get back to cool crimes like that. Like, bank robberies, right? Stealing priceless artifacts, things of that nature. I feel like that's way cooler than the 7,000th new cryptocurrency scheme that people are engaging in.
You know what we need, Steve, is more bank robberies.
Yeah. No, it's cringeworthy to listen to that, and this is the kind of new moral code of too many on the left, and it gets dangerous. I mean, I always harken back to those Batman movies with I don't know if you remember the one with Bane, and he's like taking over the city, and they start hanging all the rich people in the city.
Yeah,
it's a very dangerous trend when you hear someone who has. And by the way, the women were giggling when he was saying that.
Oh, yeah. Well, right. The one who said, oh, no, I would never steal a library book. She talked about how she steals from Whole Foods because that's okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This is what you're dealing with. Yes.
Well, you know what it's called? It's called Robin Hood, and that's their new ethic.
It's called Robin in the Hood. Steve Moore, economist, author of The Trump Economic Miracle. Steve, thanks for joining us.
Okay. Thanks, Dan.
We'll talk to you later. He joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer. Don't miss In Grace with Pastor Jim Scudder Jr. Now heard on Sunday mornings at 7:30. Tune in and find hope as Jim Scudder explores God's Word and His world each Sunday morning right here on AM 560. The Answer.
What happens when a school is truly built around teenage girls? Their growth, their confidence, their faith, their future? You get bold young women who lead without hesitation, speak without fear, and discover exactly who they're meant to be. Rosary College Prep in Aurora is the only all-girls college prep high school in the western suburbs, and we've been doing this since 1962. We know how girls learn best. That's why our students thrive in STEM, the arts, and leadership at remarkable rates, even earning AP Platinum status from the College Board. At Rosary, your daughter won't just be educated. She'll be seen, challenged, and supported every single day. Girls here collaborate, inspire each other, and grow grounded in faith and driven by purpose. Come see it for yourself. Schedule a personal tour at rosaryprep.org. That's rosaryprep.org.
Welcome back to Ask Hasselus. I'm Weston. What's your question?
Give me an extra large deep dish with sausage and green peppers.
Sir, this is Hasselus Mattress.
Throw in some breadsticks, too.
We don't have breadsticks.
Oh, well, give me some of them mozzarella sticks then.
We don't sell pizza. We sell mattresses from Sealy Posturepedic, Beauty Rest, and more for way less.
I think I've got a coupon somewhere.
You won't need a coupon for these everyday deals. Others sell a Beauty Sleep by Beauty Rest Queen Elm Cove A mattress for $1,459, but Hasselus has it for just $794.
Running any specials?
Yes. Through Monday, get an additional $248 off your new Beauty Rest or Sealy Posturepedic mattress just for shopping local.
Do you deliver?
Free next day delivery and haul away of your old mattress.
Great. Step on it, will you? I'm really hungry.
Open 9 to 9. Find an employee-free showroom near you at Hasselus.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS like Mark?
I've been doing home remodeling for 30 plus years, but the economy crashed. I wound up losing my home, losing my job, and on top of that, owing the IRS a ton of money. I owed the IRS $114,000. It really, truly was the worst part of my life.
Then Mark found tax relief advocates.
On news radio, I heard about TRA, and I thought, what's the worst that could happen? So I picked up the phone and I called them. When it was all said and done, TRA settled my $114,000 debt for $100, and I'm telling you, I was ecstatic. Could not believe it. Would recommend TRA to anyone.
If you owe 10 or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to the IRS, don't lose hope. Do what Mark did and call TRA for a consultation.
But TRA did. They gave me a second chance, and I'm forever grateful.
Visit TRA.com or call 800-575-8924. 800-575-8924. That's 800-575-8924.
AM 560, The Answer.
Coming up at 8:08, Molly Hemingway. We're going to talk about her new book about Justice Alito and the High Court. And bottom of the 8 o'clock hour, of course, Open Mic Friday. And I have an important announcement about this show that we'll kick off Open Mic Friday with. So you want to stay tuned for that and call in as per usual. All right, Molly Hemingway, 8:08. It's now 8 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
The ball is in Iran's court. I'm CJ Papa, Fox News. That is part of the message this morning at the Pentagon from War Secretary Pete Hegseth.
In this new phase, as Iran has an important choice, a chance to make a deal, a good deal, a wise deal.
As Secretary reports, so far 34 ships have been turned around in the Strait of Hormuz. America's top General Dan Kane, joining the Secretary, says they are ready to use more firepower.
Today marks 55 days since the President of the United States ordered major combat operations against Iran. Today and this morning, the Joint Force remains postured and prepared to recommence major combat operations on the order of the President.
President Trump contends U.S. military action has caused massive problems for Iran.
We've created a real mess for them.
And now new military might is at the disposal of the commander-in-chief.
CENTCOM says the U.S. Navy now has 3 aircraft carriers here in the Middle East region. The USS George H.W. Bush has arrived in the Indian Ocean. Already here, the USS Gerald Ford and Abraham Lincoln. This is the first time 3 aircraft carriers have been in the region since 2003, leading up to the invasion in Iraq. Now, CENTCOM says the United States has now ordered 33 vessels to turn around back towards Iran under the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. Most of these ships are oil tankers. Fox's Lauren Simonetti reports at least 9 Iranian tankers full of millions of barrels of oil are just sitting, unable to sell, unable to get past the American blockade.
Fox's Matt Finn in Dubai. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu revealing for the first time he underwent treatment for a malignant prostate tumor. He had also had surgery back in 2014 for a benign prostate enlargement. 76-year-old said he delayed the release by 2 months. He didn't want Iran spreading false propaganda against Israel. America's listening to Fox News.
Good morning. It is 67 degrees here in Chicago on AM 560 The Answer. I'm Stace Kane in the QC Kinetics newsroom. A train derailment on Chicago's far north side is to blame for the suspension of service on several Chicago Transit Authority train lines. Fire officials say a CTA train derailed last night in the 7500 block of North Polina as it approached the Howard station. All passengers were removed from the train. There were no injuries reported. Rail service was suspended on the yellow and purple lines as well as the red line between the Howard and Thorndale stations. A veteran Uber driver in Chicago with nearly 5,000 rides to her credit was temporarily banned by the rideshare. Fox's CJ Papa explains.
A routine pickup on the city's northwest side for the driver identified as Rosa.
It's not my drugs.
Rosa, who has a 4.9 customer rating, says she was on a phone call with the windows rolled up when she noticed a strong odor coming from the package. She says she used Uber's safety feature, but nothing happened, so she dialed the Chicago PD, who confirmed narcotics were inside. And now,
for me to go ahead and be blocked and being under investigation,
adding,
they're not telling me why is my account blocked.
Uber responded saying it's alarmed by the report and the rider who sent the package has been banned. Rosa says her account has been restored and she's back in good standing with Uber. CJ Papa, Fox News.
Mayor Brendan Johnson's office says Newmarket's tax credit allocation from the nonprofit Chicago Development Fund provided $10 million for a new health and wellness hub on Chicago's west side. City officials cut the ribbon at the Sankofa Village Wellness Center on Thursday. The mayor's office says the project also used $5.9 million in proceeds from the sale of city land and $1.5 million in Chicago Recovery Plan funding. This report is a service of Salem Surround, a local digital marketing agency providing high-performing digital solutions to surround your target audience. Go to surroundchicago.com today. A check of the roads is coming up in 2 minutes, but time now for the AM 560 Business Beat, a service of Signature Bank.
I'm Liz Clayman, and this is the Fox Business Report.
Procter & Gamble shares are up more than 1.5%. The parent company of Pampers and Gillette says sales rose 7% in its recent quarter. Stock futures are mixed this morning. Brent crude, the global benchmark for oil, has topped $107 a barrel. The Wall Street Journal says Meta Platforms' announcement that it is planning to lay off 10% of its workforce, or about 8,000 people, is a sign of its relentless shift toward artificial intelligence. The layoffs are coming May 20th. Meta is cutting, looking to save money so it can make huge investments in AI. The Journal says Meta has been unusually aggressive, even by the standards of Silicon Valley. Intel shares are sharply higher, gaining more than 25%, following a very strong quarter. That's your Fox Business Report. I'm Jenny Cosola. Invested in you.
Mike Gallagher doesn't see another option.
Eric Swalwell, who's been accused of sexual assault by a number of women, dropped out of the gubernatorial race in California. Well, they can't possibly think he should be able to serve in Congress. I haven't heard a single Democrat call for him to resign from Congress. How can you have that both ways?
The Mike Gallagher Show, weekdays at 9 on AM 560, The Answer.
Each morning, the newsmakers and the newsbreakers shaping today's conversation are heard on the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line on Chicago's Morning Answer. When you need answers about what's happening in your world, you turn to AM 560 The Answer. And when you need answers about how to prepare for and protect your retirement, you turn to the Alpha Wealth Group, now the proud sponsor of the AM 560 Answer line, right here on Chicago's source for news, opinion, and insight. AM 560 The Answer.
Take the journey of living a happy, successful, and meaningful life through God. Listen to It's Time with Dan Lights, Sunday mornings at 9 on our sister station, AM 1160. Hope for your life.
My name is Whitney Allen, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, died. We never thought we'd ever have to use life insurance, but the unexpected happened. With Ethos, signing up was fast and 100% online. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. No medical exams, and you can get up to $3 million worth of coverage. I'm grateful we were prepared.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/term. That's ethos.com/term.
Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
My name is Christine, and I'm a widow. My husband, Ryan, was a healthy 34-year-old, and 3 months later, he was gone. Thankfully, he had life insurance. Ethos made it so easy. You can get a quote in seconds, apply in minutes, and get same-day coverage. 100% online, no medical exam. Life insurance didn't take away the loss, but it did give us the space to just grieve.
Get your free quote at ethos.com/save. ethos.com/save.
Paid spokesperson. Time spent on application may vary. Online health questions required.
I didn't switch to Pure Talk just because I wanted to save 50% off the same 5G service I'd been paying twice as much for. I switched because I like the idea of being in business with a wireless company that supports our veterans in a meaningful way. Pure Talk also creates American jobs every day by keeping their entire operation in this country. I appreciate that. If you feel the same, dial pound 250, say Mike Rowe, and switch to an American wireless company that actually stands for something. Pure Talk.
Taking a look at the roads from the Team Hawk Park Traffic Center, I'm Sue Aller. Jam-packed on 57 southbound at Balmer Road, all because of a collision. And then you got a broken down truck in Stony Island Feeder. Northbound at 95th Street, it's stuck under the viaduct. Delays go back to the Bishop Ford. And on the outbound Bishop Ford at Dottie Avenue, there's a collision off to the right shoulder. 15 in, 19 out on the Edens from Lake Cook to Montrose. 33 in, 37 out on the Kennedy from O'Hare to the Bird Interchange. The Ike is 36 in, 22 out from Wolf to the Old Post Office. 46 in, 29 out on the Stevenson from Veterans Memorial to Lakeshore. And the Dan Ryan from 95th to the Burn Interchange is 45 minutes. Outbound is 12. This report is a service of True Green. True Green, the easiest way to get a golf course quality lawn. Don't wait. Sign up at truegreen.com and get your first application for $9.95. True Green, the official lawn care treatment provider for the PGA Tour. Let the pros do the work for you so you can enjoy your weekend. Restrictions apply. See site for details. Chicago's Morning Answer continues next, but now the latest forecast from the Air Right Heating and Cooling Weather Center.
Today, expect a thunder shower with cloudy skies in the morning, giving way to a mix of clouds and sun in the afternoon. The temperature will reach a high of 75. Tonight will be mainly clear and cooler with a low of 46. Tomorrow, anticipate sunny to partly cloudy skies and cooler temperatures with a high of 61. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Excited to have Molly Hemingway join us momentarily. And I wanted to revisit a topic to start with that we tackled earlier in the week because it just speaks to the political context in which the Supreme Court operates these days. And that was yet another leak from the Supreme Court, the third in 4 years. Has John Roberts gotten to the bottom of the Dobbs leak yet? Do we have that? FBI? Anybody? Yeah. Carrie Urban is the legal editor for Fox News, and she had this to say about the leak of the so-called shadow docket memo to the New York Times in the context of the other two leaks over the last 4 years.
We're looking at 3 major leaks over the last 4 years, which is really unheard of for the U.S. Supreme Court.
Okay, so why?
It's a great question, Sandra. And look, I think these leaks tend to go in one direction, and it is to undercut what the conservative wing of the Supreme Court is doing or is in the process of doing. Certainly that was the case with Dobbs, and we saw what happened there when that decision was leaked. The justices faced violence at their homes. Attorney General Garland, unfortunately, didn't enforce the law at the time that would have stopped the protesters from doing some of the things they were doing around their homes. We remember that time. It was really troubling. It was the same time where that man attempted to murder Justice Brett Kavanaugh. It had some real world possible harms that could have occurred. And so why is it happening? Look, I think there are some disgruntled people that elections have consequences, and a Republican president has made some pretty conservative picks for the Supreme Court, and there are people who are unhappy with that, so they're willing to undercut and bypass the traditions and protocols of the Supreme Court and endanger its future, really, by leaking out things from that building to the general public who don't have the context and are certainly undercutting the public's trust just in the integrity of the institution by doing so.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And that should be foreshadowing in the minds of Republican senators about what a neo-Marxist party takeover of Congress and the presidency would look like in terms of expanding the court. Molly Hemingway is the editor-in-chief of The Federalist, Federalist.com, senior journalism fellow at Hillsdale College, Fox News contributor and best-selling author. Her latest book, Alito, The Justice Who Reshaped the Supreme Court and Restored the Constitution. Molly Hemingway, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Great to be back with you, Dan.
Yeah, so what do you think about what Ms. Urban said about those leaks right up to the present?
I think it's absolutely right when something like this happens that you think about who might be motivated to do it, and also that you hold any leakers fully accountable. This was the big mistake after Dobbs. Chief Justice Roberts said he was going to do an investigation. I tell the story of what that investigation actually looked like, and a lot of it was, very behind the scenes, and we didn't really know what they were doing. But it was a very inadequate investigation, and I think he's paying the price for it now with these subsequent leaks from a liberal minority that is unable to deal with the fact that they're in the minority. And so they're starting to resort to some dirty tricks, or they or their allies are.
Yeah, is there any ability with new leadership at the Department of Justice, for example, to revisit the Dobbs leak? I mean, because, again, it's one of those things on every conservative's punch list of bad actors engaged in political skullduggery, in some instances criminality, and we never see anybody held to account, even just publicly held to account, not necessarily under the color of law, but just publicly held to account. And this is right near the top of the list.
Well, it's really a shame that the Supreme Court itself didn't do a better job with this, because much of what happened there was a violation of policy and norms, whether it was against the law to do this thing that put the lives of the justices at risk. I think there is a very good argument for it, but the marshal herself should have done an actual inquiry. Instead of saying, did you leak the Dobbs decision? I mean, imagine if the police went around saying, did you rob that bank? No? Okay, we'll carry on then.
Yeah, good enough for me.
You have to ask questions that really get at the heart of the matter. Do you know this reporter? Does your spouse know this reporter? Did you go to that reporter's wedding? Did he go to your wedding? You ask questions that make it a little more difficult to just give an easy yes or no in order to find a little bit more about what went on there.
Yeah, you ask questions designed to actually resolve the matter. What a concept. The other thing, though, too, that speaks to the culture now, and I wonder, you have some historical perspective on this, and you and Carrie Severino does a great job of covering the court. Sotomayor bon mot in the direction of Kavanaugh, where she sort of publicly criticized him as being, a white privileged guy who doesn't understand the plight of illegal immigrants. And then she sort of apologized because that broke norms, too, for a public criticism of a personal nature like that. But it speaks to something else you were just mentioning about the inability of the Sotomayors and the KBJs and pretty much everybody on the left to not throw a temper tantrum if they don't get their way.
Well, there was a report just last week that the 3 liberal justices were slow-walking their dissent in a racial gerrymandering case because, they know that if it came out early enough that legislatures could deal with it and it would possibly advantage Republicans and harm Democrats. I found this fascinating because, to me, the most explosive story I was able to tell in the book was about how the liberal justices slow-walked their Dobbs dissent, even as their colleagues were facing legitimate death threats. And they were asked by their colleagues to please get it done so that they and their children wouldn't die. And instead, they just went out of their way to just slowly get everything done. And they even, when they filed their dissent, they included a footnote to something that wasn't coming out till later in the term. I mean, it was really gratuitous and unnecessary what they were doing, but it was a type of temper tantrum because of their love for the Roe v. Wade decision.
And we played that clip of you recounting that anecdote from your book on Alito from the Megyn Kelly's podcast earlier in the week. But just to explain that footnote piece of the story too, and why that's important.
So when a decision is not final until it is publicly released from the bench. And for that to be final, usually what that means is that you have the opinion, but you also have any other writings from the court, a dissent, a concurrence. And so you need that all to be done for it to be publicly released. After the Dobbs leak, the majority had done the really difficult work, and they'd been done for 3 months. They were shocked to learn that the liberals said, oh, we're nowhere near done, even though this was a project like 50 years in the making, and they'd had the majority of it for 3 months. And they were asked by multiple justices to please get it done. Instead, Elena Kagan went to Justice Breyer's chambers and yelled at him to not accommodate his conservative colleagues by getting it done any sooner. And then what they said, okay, well, we'll finally get it done in June. And when they filed it in June, they referenced a case that everybody really was still working on that wasn't going to come out for another 3 to 4 weeks. They didn't need to reference this case. It was just this little bomb they put in there to make sure that they could drag out Dobbs from being released all the more. And during that time, Kavanaugh and his family really did have an assassin on their street who'd found their address from the liberal group posting it and encouraging people to go to their house.
Yeah, that is just jarring. It really is. To tell us about Sam Alito and what people should understand about him, since he doesn't really have the profile, and even he doesn't really generate the antagonism, public antagonism, say the way Clarence Thomas does or Antonin Scalia did.
Well, actually, Dan, I think in some ways he is the most hated by liberals of the justices. Some people have said he's the smartest and most strategic of the conservative justices. He's less likely to gain attention for what he's doing, but more likely to achieve results. When Carrie Severino and I wrote the Kavanaugh book, it was Justice Alito's own colleagues who were saying, we don't know why people don't talk about him more. He's an absolute giant on this court. And I think we all know that a little bit more now, but there's just nothing written about him. And I said, well, I got to do this. I got to tell people more about this man. And so I got to do that in Alito, telling about his background, but also going behind the scenes at the court, explaining some of these procedures and what happened during the Dobbs leak, and also just what the justices are like and how they're viewed by their staff and their clerks. And it's such a privilege to be able to report on the court. And I know there's a lot of interest in it, but I was really happy that I was able to do this one, not just about Alito, but the court in general.
I love that from an excerpt from the book, your book Alito, over at the Federalist, Federalist.com. I love the joke that clerks tell about him in terms of how little he needs them. How do they describe that?
Yeah, his clerks will say that he needs them like a mother needs a toddler to help bake cookies. You don't really do much, but it's fun to be there. So he's unlike some justices who rely heavily on their clerks. Alito, according to his clerks, they don't really feel like they're that needed. They like to do research. They like to do drafts. But he is so competent and capable. He's viewed by his colleagues, too, as extremely smart and capable and able to do the heavy lifting. He likes to read the facts of every case that comes before the court, even going back to the trial record. And he has a very different approach that I think is important for Americans right now. Yes, he's principled, like Thomas and Scalia, people who conservatives love, but he's also very focused on what moves the ball down the field. You know, what's prudential, what's pragmatic. And I think conservatives could use that, understanding that balancing principle and pragmatism, those things are not in conflict with each other. They actually work really well together.
Yeah, reading your accounts of Alito, it sort of calls to mind, although I think he's probably a little bit more scholarly, but it calls to mind Byron Whizzer White, who actually was a Kennedy, JFK nominee, but ended up being a much more comfortable serving under Rehnquist than he was Warren.
Dan, I love that you mentioned him. He is from Colorado, like I am. And yes, he was one of the 2 people to dissent from the Roe decision, even though he was appointed by a Democrat, and many of the people who had voted for it were not. And he is a really interesting, practical jurist, and I think his reputation has reflected that. But
yeah, going back to Alito, like, what are his relationships like with the other justices? I mean, is he a lone wolf? Is he collegial with everybody? Is he tight with anybody in particular? Like, do he and Clarence Thomas play pickleball? I mean, what?
Well, he and Justice Scalia were very close, and I think it was very hard on Justice Alito when Justice Scalia died. He and Clarence Thomas are obviously very close and tend to rule together. He gets along well with the other justices. It's funny because they used to be of the type that they would just complain about each other in their written dissents or opinions, and they would complain bitterly. You know, Justice Scalia once said that Justice Thomas had crafted a freedom-destroying cocktail. It was really mean, but then when they went out for drinks later, Clarence Thomas ordered a liberty-destroying cocktail. You know, they kind of take it in stride. But he's considered, along with Kagan, to be the best at oral argument. You know, when they hear the cases publicly, he's the one who asks the questions that get at the heart of the matter. Frequently, what he asks gets put in the eventual opinion or dissent, even if he doesn't write it. He's so good at understanding the particulars. Oh, but he's very, very reserved, far more reserved than any of his colleagues. Each of his colleagues tends to be very outgoing. Alito is very quiet, and if you get to know him, that's where you realize, like, oh, he's a really funny guy, but he doesn't feel the need to dominate a room.
You know, it's interesting because that feeds to the next question I had, which is thinking about Thomas's remarks in Austin the other day, thinking about the 250-year anniversary of the country and talking about, the constant struggle that persists for men to enjoy their natural rights against encroachments from the state, and this tension, and urging people to be more engaged civically and so forth. And I was just, so listening to Thomas's speech, I'm like, why doesn't Alito do more of this sort of speechifying, participate in the arena, not in a political way, although it's obviously partly political, but in that kind of way of speaking about this country's history and traditions, this big idea that is America, and where perils lurk at present.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I actually end the book with a portion of a speech he gave more than a decade ago that very much mirrors that excellent speech from Justice Thomas last week, where he talks about the hearts of men needing to be the American founding can't rely just on laws, that the people need to embrace the ideals of the founding. It very much goes along with what Clarence Thomas was saying. And he does not want to be in the political arena, but he has given some interesting speeches. And then more than anything, his jurisprudence suggests that he really is worried about the country, less in the legal. I mean, he is concerned about the area of the law, but he understands that there have been changes to the American people since the time he grew up, and not for the better. Mm-hmm. And so that does weigh on his heart heavily.
Molly Hemingway is editor-in-chief of The Federalist, Federalist.com, senior journalism fellow at Hillsdale College, Fox News contributor, of course, and best-selling author. Her latest, Alito, the Justice Who Reshaped the Supreme Court and Restored the Constitution. Alito, Molly Hemingway is the author. Pick it up. Molly, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it. Good luck with the book.
Thank you, Dan. Take care. Bye.
Take care. And she joined us on the alphawealthgroup.com answer line.
The more you listen, the more you'll know. This is Chicago's Morning Answer. Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat in Chicagoland is no joke. And if your old air conditioner is making funny noises, you may already know it's time for a new unit.
Look, your air conditioner, it's a disaster. People are telling me it's the worst ever.
Don't sweat it. Literally. When it comes to cooling your home, Air Right Heating and Cooling does it the best.
And they love our country. Beautiful people.
Rebates are still available. Financing is flexible. And at Air Right, installations are smooth and professional with no surprises.
It's beautiful. Some people say it's the coolest air anyone's ever felt. I don't know. That's just what they're saying. It's doing an incredible job. Really tremendous.
Plus, tell them AM 560 sent you, and Air Right will give you $56 off any service. Visit Air Right Heating and Cooling today at AIR-RITE.com. Again, that's AIR-RITE.com. Air Right Heating and Cooling, doing it right since 1959.
AM 560, The Answer.
Open mic! Open mic Friday! Call it now! Open mic Friday!
Top of the morning, Dan Proft here. Yes, that time of the week, Open Mic Friday, where we take your calls. 312-642-5600. AlphaWealthGroup.com. Answer line and text line. We'll take your calls there, 312-642-5600, with your comments, your compliments, your concerns, your criticisms, sure, and your general crackpottery, which we often have a surfeit of. 312-642-5600, again, the AlphaWealthGroup.com answer line and text line. Before we begin, an announcement about this program. Very happy to announce venerable newsman Mike Scott is coming back. Hooray! That's great. Mike Scott is returning to AM 560. I believe, beginning May 1st. He will once again anchor the news during this show. Thank goodness. While also delivering traffic reports. In addition, he's going to handle afternoon news during Sean's show. Traffic in the afternoon still handled by Jill Urchek. But, there's nobody better in the business than Mike Scott, and he was a pleasure to work with before, and he's going to be a pleasure to work with again, and I'm super excited because he adds great value to this program, as you all do who listen. So we are excited to report that. Can't wait to have Mike Scott back. Mark it down, May 1. Mike Scott is back in the saddle. 312-642-5600, AlphaWealthGroup.com. Answer line, that is. Rick in Downers Grove, you're on Chicago's Morning Answer.
Yeah, hey, good morning. Yeah, that's good news. Get the gang back together.
Yeah.
But, my thing is, like the Ken Griffith story, I would like to see him make a commercial and play it in New York City and New York constantly, saying, this is what I propose, rendition of that. These are the jobs it'll create, construction. These are the permanent jobs. These are the tax money. This is what your mayor says. This is what your governor says. If they're serious, this project's going to go all the way to Miami and, see if you can get some of these Mondami dummies to maybe wake up and decide maybe, it's not the way to go to be hate the rich.
Thanks for the call, Rick. And Ken Griffin is doing real estate development in Miami, too. I've seen some of the waterfront properties he's bought. So he has options, obviously. Doesn't have to do the New York deal, as his chief operating officer so indicated, firing back at Mamdani indirectly. By the way, I should also mention, we are still looking for suggestions for how to amend the Chicago Bears fight song if indeed they end up in Hammond, Indiana. We've got some more, that line, bear down Chicago Bears and let them know why you're wearing the crown. You're the pride and joy of Illinois. Chicago Bears bear down. But what if you're no longer the pride and joy of Illinois? And the suggestion earlier, you're the pride and joy from Illinois. You were the pride and joy of Illinois. I think we've had a few other texters. You're the pride and joy who left Illinois. I mean, it works. And then also just getting rid of Illinois altogether. You're the top banana of Indiana. Okay. So we'll take suggestions, and I'm going to forward all of these to Kevin Warren for his consideration, of course. Nick, Northwest Side.
Yeah, thank you. I want to say that Trump has to be very careful, not that he needs my advice, but
I always look at things in a historical perspective. Hitler, Mussolini, and Tojo ended up using their countries as their personal casinos, and eventually everything fell apart and the whole countries went down with them. Iran, whoever's running it now, or whatever groups that are running it, will not honor a commitment to allow, they will say that they'll allow it, to allow ships to go through the Strait of Hormuz. But once a few get into there, they'll bomb them and cause a backlog, with the sunken ships, and then the ones behind. So they got to have like one ship that makes it all the way through out into the safe waters, then another one, and then another one. Trump's got to be very careful about it. I don't trust that the people who run that country. Because
I don't think he trusts them either. I don't think you have to worry about him trusting. Yeah. Thanks for the call, Nick. I mean, it was funny actually. There was a fun exchange between Brett Baer and Josh Holmes, he of the Ruthless podcast. He's a former Senate staffer. I think he was chief of staff. Was he chief of staff to McConnell? Anyway, Politico. But Brett Baer and Josh Holmes talking about Hakeem Jeffries. It's one thing to have like legitimate questions and concerns and a recognition of restraint here, as there are still a lot of contingencies that have to be addressed with respect to Iran. That's all fair. It's another thing to take the position of, what do they call him? Dime Store Obama, Hakeem the Dream Jeffries, that Iran is in a better position today than before Trump's quote-unquote war of choice. This was a fun exchange on that.
The House Minority Leader to say that Iran is in a better position today than it was before the war started seems so disconnected.
It's so disconnected, and I can't really figure out what he's doing. I mean, the partisanship at this point has gone off the charts. You could be confused if you're listening to Hakeem Jeffries about whether he's a spokesperson for the Supreme Leader of Iran or a spokesperson for the Democratic Party in the House of Representatives.
Can't you be both? I think they dovetail nicely. Lou in Western PA.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Morning Talk Show Hall of Fame is proud to make its first selection in the 2026 draft. Dan Proft of Chicago Radio, AM 560, The Answer. Dan is a 6-foot, 180-pound, multi-talented personality who hails from Oak Park, Illinois, attended Bennett Academy, Northwestern, and Loyola University. He has broken biased politicians, radical liberals, and an occasional golf club or two. His intelligent, articulate persona is followed by thousands each day. Frank from Arlington Heights, Chuck from Delavan, and the Prime Minister, to mention a few. So, Dan, without hesitation, would you step to the podium?
Oh, boy, quite an honor. Thanks for that, Lou. And you've gotten my working bio going there. I appreciate that very much. I think I've broken more than a club or two, though. That was generous, and I appreciate that. Yeah. And by the way, I don't hail from Oak Park. I was born at West Suburban in Oak Park, but I hail from Wheaton. We got to make sure that's right. Gosh, I certainly don't want to. Hemingway can have Oak Park. I'll take Wheaton. Bill in Waukegan.
Hey, Dan, thanks for taking my call. Just a couple of quick questions. Can the city and the state of Illinois be held responsible for the under the sanctuary state and city laws, or whatever they call them? Can they be held responsible for any of the killings that have happened to by illegal immigrants, to the people that have suffered those deaths and their families? And then my other question is, when you have guests like Molly Hemingway on, why is Dan Proft single?
What do you mean? What do you mean? Why?
She just seems like she's like the best fit for you, my man. It's like she's smart, articulate. And, and the picture that you guys post on your podcast or on your cast here is she's a babe. I'm thinking like, if I had that to go home to every day, I'd be a happy man.
Well, there's one problem, Bill, and that's her husband, Mark Hemingway, who's also a friend of the show. So I think that's, therein lies the rub. I stand corrected. Yeah, that's all right. Thanks for the call. In terms of holding these politicians accountable under their sanctuary state under the wreckage and the death and destruction that their sanctuary state policies impose. Talked about this many times. Not really. I mean, sovereign immunity for policy decisions prevents that, unless you cross the line and you aid and abet the escape of a criminal like that Judge Dugan in Milwaukee, interfere with law enforcement, that sort of thing. But it would be nice if we could come together and hold them accountable morally and then politically. And I'll tell you, we talked about this yesterday, but let's hear a little bit of it again, because frankly, you can't hear it too much, and this should be shared widely. The Gorman spoke to CBS Mornings earlier in the week, and, it's heart-wrenching to listen to a family have to talk about the death of a child, especially when they know it was a preventable death. Preventable murder.
No one should have to deal with the police coming to your door at 6 a.m., falling to your knees when you hear the news that no parent should ever hear.
There's nothing that prepares you for going to the medical examiner's office and filling out the paperwork. Your hand is trembling, and then you have to go identify your daughter's body. And they ask you if you're ready, and nothing makes you ready for that.
And Mrs. Gorman?
He moved towards her threateningly. She turned around and she warned her friends that there was a man with a gun and you need to run, and they ran. She ran. She made it
40 feet.
But she made it 40 feet, and he shot her in the back. Came out her neck.
And
she saved her friends.
What?
I don't know. Presumably, we heard that. They say it was a senseless tragedy. It wasn't. It was a murder. It was a preventable murder.
Mm-hmm. And in terms of what they think should be done going forward, and their commitment to be part of pushing for what they think should be done?
Clearly, there needs to be some cooperation between state and local government and federal officials. When someone commits a crime and they've been here illegally, there needs to be cooperation. He was arrested for, yes, a nonviolent crime, but he also was here illegally. In our mind, he should have been handed over to the feds at that point.
I don't know what the longevity of this effort takes, but I will never rest. And yes, they've awakened a bear. They've awakened a big grizzly mama bear. I got to fight for my child. I have to fight for yours. I have to turn this devastating darkness into light somehow.
Tough stuff. Or at least it should be. And every day I say it because every day it's true. And the violence and depravity, the examples of it, just get increasingly unfathomable. Take a listen to this story out of San Antonio. A mom and a 3-year-old daughter at a park.
A random attack at a Southside park over the weekend has a San Antonio mother in shock. Her 3-year-old daughter is recovering tonight from wounds from a total stranger. It all happened Saturday at Espada Park while Gabriela Perez and her family were fishing. That's when a man appeared out of the woods and began punching Perez and grabbing her by the hair, causing her to drop her daughter. That's when it is said the attacker started biting the little girl's face. Perez says it was a scene out of a horror movie.
I think whenever he was, everybody was already there, I got up and I was like, this is a zombie movie. What the heck?
Villas was tackled by onlookers and held until police arrived. He is charged with injury to a child with intent to cause bodily injury. San Antonio police say it's unclear what led to the attack.
No, nothing led to it. You have a person who is a maniac. It's just so. Thank goodness there were onlookers and the innocent bystander routine wasn't in effect. They actually intervened to help this little girl. The description was he was trying to eat her face. Again, I'm not playing the demagogic demagogic game. I'm not saying that's representative of every person in this country legally. Obviously, that's not true. But what the other side will not admit, this open borders crowd, is that, I'll say it again, a small percentage of a big number is a massive problem and can impose massive damage on the innocent. It is axiomatic. And how many more gruesome examples do you need to say we can't do what we did ever again? And we have to be full-throated in our support for removing all of these people. And maybe that includes some constructive engagement on our side to tell our sanctuary city and state simps, you will cooperate, just as the government said, with federal law enforcement. You will allow ICE agents to access people for whom they have detainers at jails. You will honor those detainers. You will act like a responsible adult. You can rail against Trump and you can call for abolishing ICE, but you're going to do these things. Otherwise, at least in some jurisdictions, you're going to be held to account. And frankly, at this point, it'll probably require the parents of victims to be the ones doing the holding to account where possible, where the electorate is not so TDS addled, so given over to neo-Marxist sentimentality that they actually will respond to a call for decency from people who aren't even political, or they're middle of the road political. That's how the Gormans describe themselves, just as Joe Abraham did. They've been thrust into this because they have to honor the memory of their children, understandably. And they're trying to be good citizens by preventing what happened to them from happening to somebody else because they don't want somebody else to feel the bottomless pain that they feel. Decent people. And if you can't bring yourself to support decent people who've been forever harmed in the most horrific way, then maybe you're not such a decent person. And maybe you should be identified as such. That shame component that people are afraid to deploy. Bob, Buffalo Grove.
Good morning, Dan. Always good talking to you. And shout out, congratulations to Mike Scott. I'm going to be liking hearing him discuss the news with somebody that understands Chicago.
Yes.
And here's a shout out for you. Somebody is having a birthday next week, so let me give an early announcement on that.
Louis Aparicio? Yeah.
Yeah. And then,
right. Jerry Seinfeld.
And then here's some news I just heard this morning. I guess Trump is going to return to the correspondence dinner.
Yeah.
I might try to listen to it. I'm wondering how he's going to behave, and will he address the journalists who are giving fake news and missing news, and just in general how he's going to behave himself in front of all those reporters.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Bob. I hope he has good writers for his turn at the dais to have fun at the expense of the White House Correspondents Association, the august D.C. press corps. Gosh, I'd love to write some quips for him. Maybe I'll work on that and just post them, and he can pick them up if he wants. Bears fight song edits. We got to edit that if they're going to Indiana. Bill, Northwest Side.
Yeah, I think I've solved this riddle, Dan. Instead of "You're the pride of Illinois," you go with "You're our pride and joy. Oh boy, oh boy."
Okay. That's one way to do it. Thanks, Bill. I got one from Robert out of Wheaton, too. You make us feel great in the Hoosier State. Yeah, okay. I mean, you could go two ways with it. You could paper over the Illinois reference altogether and turn it into Indiana, or you sort of recharacterize the Illinois reference. I guess since they're going to remain the Chicago Bears, of course, just like the New York Giants and the New York Jets playing in New Jersey are still the New York Giants and Jets. So I almost feel like you've got to deal with the Illinois piece of it by leaving it in and just changing the present tense of it, present tense nature of it. Paul in Campton Hills.
Yeah, this is Jimmy Shorts.
That's pretty good.
I had to move over back to Fort Wayne, Indiana for a little while after I got out of radio, and I was working for Burnout. You know, they're in Fort Wayne. I was a test dummy there, and they kept shooting me in the crotch, so I had to quit because of the swelling. So I'm looking for another job, and what I'd like to do is come down to Florida and be your caddy, and if you get behind on a couple of holes, I could just shoot a burner at whoever your opponent is.
All right. Thanks, Paul from Campton Hills. Yeah, I'll contemplate that offer. Thank you. That's a great Jim Shorts impersonation, too. I got to tell you. That's really good. I think Kevin Matthews would approve. Ron in Sycamore.
Hi, Dan. I attended yesterday's CPS school board meeting, and trust me, they do care about security. It was packed. They have metal detectors all over the place, and I feel bad for these parents that are losing these kids because Chicago politicians do care about security. Don't let them fool you.
They care about their security. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Ron. Mm-hmm. That sounds right. Oh, they got their big May Day events, rallies, indoctrination seminars going too, right? I saw something posted about that. Some of the syllabus items, I suppose. I think Corey DeAngelis posted that. Yeah, that's the ticket. Little Jimmy Flanagan there. Yeah, he's got that. Let's see here. What do we got for May Day? We are going to have class, but again, CPS is committed to providing busing and refreshments so that the indoctrination can continue and workers of the world can unite and we can all fly our flags adorned with hammers and sickles. The teachers union sent out a curriculum for public school teachers. What to expect from authoritarians with a picture of Trump. They will stoke fear and chaos to keep us off balance. They will make threats to get people to obey in advance. They will weaponize fear of subgroups to keep us divided and apart. What is fascism? Fascism is blah, blah, blah. Trump going after critics, right and left alike, like Secretary John Bolton. That's fascism. Suppression of black history that goes against the nationalist narrative, removing black history from stamps and the Smithsonian. Wasn't this a group that tried to prevent, well, it did until it got attention, excluded Clarence Thomas from the Black History Museum? He's sort of an important African-American figure in American history, I think, even if you disagree with his judicial philosophy. But anyway. Yeah, so that's going on. They're getting their curriculum organized for Big May Day activist training session. Steve and Addison, you're at Chicago's Morning Answer.
Well, I had to just go away, you slackers. Now we'll root for the Packers. And number two, just go away, we beg. We'll call you the ham and egg.
All right, thanks, Steve. Jack in Northwest Indiana, the possible new home of the Bears. Yeah.
Exactly. So all this discussion about the proposed Illinois millionaires tax, I can't recall if I heard LaShawn Ford or Chris Welch mention it, but they pull out the old tried and true. It's all about the kids. It's for school funding, properly funding schools.
Yeah, right.
I thought the lottery back in the 70s was put in place to adequately fund schools in perpetuity. So they pull out the same card. It's never enough. They always grab more and more. And I can't understand why the residents, I don't care if you're a Democrat or Republican, continue to put up with this nonsense. Because you know what? Ken Griffin's a unique animal, but there are plenty of people that are worth millions that need to exit because they'll continue to pay for the grift.
Thanks for the call, Jack. Joe, Glen Ellen.
Dan, you're so good with movie references. Hakeem Jeffries, every time I look at him, he's got those toon eyes from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Christopher Lloyd, Judge Doom, where he turns out to be a toon himself. You know,
That's
killing
good.
all the. Yeah, he's got the. I can't look at him. His eyes are animated. He's got toon eyes.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Joe. The toon eyes were out when he was accosted in the hallway by a reporter who wanted to query him about Ilhan Omar and, you know, those accounting errors that afflicted her financial disclosures. Oh, this is how that went.
Just curious to get your thoughts on Ilhan Omar's financial disclosure. Does all of the scrutiny around that concern you at all, and does that warrant an official House ethics investigation?
That issue has not been brought to my attention, but we do know that Ilhan Omar, who works hard on behalf of the people that she represents in Minnesota, is constantly under attack by right-wing conspiracy theorists.
Well, what about her net worth going from $30 million to now under $100,000? Do you believe that's truly an accounting error, as she alluded to?
It's not an issue that I'm familiar with.
Yeah, sure. He doesn't know anything about that. He doesn't know anything about it, but he knows it's the product of right-wing conspiracy theorists. Very talented. Tim, Woodstock.
Hi, good morning, Dan. Hey, I just had a comment about the Sean Piker. I think he's really only carrying the left world's views to their logical conclusions, really. There's no absolute truth. So you can have a law like do not steal, but you can pirate a car but not steal a book from the library. I mean, it just points out the moral chaos that the Democratic Party and the left in general is in, and it's true unless we don't like you. Then we can break the rules. But what I wanted to say, too, is that conservatives running for the midterms, I think they should, as you alluded to earlier in the week, they should be featuring Sean Piker and others like him in their own words, and just show people that this is the new face of the new Democratic Party. And also take some little courage from the representative from Michigan, I'm forgetting her name, but said she couldn't run as a Democrat anymore because of the complete incompatibility of the Democrat Party and the left in general with the Christian faith. And that's the connection we need to make, is to stop apologizing for the faith, connect it to Western civilization and all the freedoms and the prosperity that we enjoy. And ask, is that what you want? You want a Sean Piker? Well, there he is, you know.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Tim. No, I agree that the Hassan Piker, in his own words, and on the trail with people like Graham Plantner. And the SRCC did a good ad on Graham Plantner, the, I guess, reformed Nazi sympathizer, or Nazi, I don't know. But where it was just reading his screeds on Reddit, racist, ignorant, profane. This is the leading candidate to take on Susan Collins in that Senate race in Maine. To do something like that with Piker, who's and the articles, Ezra Klein's piece in the New York Times, Hassan Piker's not our enemy, and all the other aligning with for the purpose of getting to his intolerant, it's got his audience of goofballs who apparently mainly believe the things that he believes in communism and, by extension, violence as the means to political ends, which he talks about very casually all the time. Yeah, is this what you want? This is the choice. What Megan McArdle said in response to that podcast, and I made mention of this earlier in the program, talking with Steve Moore. Megan McArdle and talking about Jill Filipovic, Like what used to separate us was right versus left, but now that separation has been blurred because the real divide is normal versus abnormal. Ron, Southside.
Hey, Dan, I'm going to respond to that professor. you were talking about earlier this week that seniors should be given stuff.
Oh, yeah, Moyne from Yale. Yeah. We got seniors. Seniors have too much senior stock. They have too much stuff, and they should give it to younger people. That's the bottom line.
And guess what? I'm not giving anybody anything that me and my wife worked 40 years for. Only thing I will do is fight for opportunities for them, which I was given. But then, so he was talking about the seniors that hold certain positions in society. I think the average age of professional athletes is, 23, 24? Get those positions up. Me and you, Dan, we can get a position with the Bulls, huh? So why don't they give up those positions, huh? That's just not how society works.
Yeah. Thanks for the call, Ron. Appreciate it. We literally could probably play for the Bulls. That's how bad they are. I did have to get to this just to leave you going into the weekend with a favorite earworm. Fury has erupted in Italy, or maybe it's furry that's erupted, after a Nigerian immigrant was caught, wait for it, cooking a cat on a makeshift barbecue next to a children's playground. This in the city of Sarzana, just outside of Genoa.
In Springfield, they're eating the dogs.
And in Sarzana.
They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there.
People of Sarzana.
Don't eat my cats. Why would you do that? Eat something else. People of
Sarzana. Yeah.
Here's a catalog of other things to eat.
They're eating the dogs. They're eating the cats.
Meow, 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 meow.
They're eating the pets.
Yeah.
The people that live there.
So that's the story out of Sarzana, just south of Genoa in Italy. Eduardo, Tampa Bay.
Yeah, good morning, Dan. Yeah, I think it'd be a good idea for President Trump to put some extra police or extra law enforcement in Louisiana with those two killings, the National Guardsman, and then we had a shooting again, I guess at a mall. I think it'd be a good PR for President Trump.
Thanks for the call, Eduardo. Prime Minister, quickly.
Prime Minister was at yesterday's CPS meeting. Antifa checked you for guns and knives before you came in. If you didn't have any, they gave you some. Now, Mike Lindell claims gruesome Gavin Newsom goes through 3 pillowcases each week due to the excessive deployment of that greasy kid stuff. But I thought the wet head was dead, Dan. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, it is a little bit out of fashion. I agree with you, PM. Yeah, that Patrick Bateman look is not as cool as Gavin Newsom thinks it is. Okay, we close it out. Chuck in Delavan.
Hey, we got the big D-Light Duo weekend for dancing Friday and Saturday, 7 to 10 at Pier 90 tonight. Geneva Tap on Sunday, 2 to 5. Get up here and start picking asparagus.
Pick your own asparagus. Yeah,
the asparagus is up. I had my girlfriend in the ditch last night, and she did great. She was picking all the asparagus.
That's when you know you got a good one, when she'll pick the asparagus. Right, Chuck?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Have a great weekend, Chuck. Thank you so much. As always, the colorful Chuck from Delavan. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. It is now 9 o'clock on AM 560 WIND Chicago.
The view of the war. I'm Therese Crowley, Fox News. War Secretary Pete Hegseth declares with this U.S. military action, Iran will not have nuclear weapons.
All they have to do is abandon a nuclear weapon in meaning